afternoon, and good evening to you, wherever and whenever you are joining us. Welcome to a special edition of What Caught My Eye, or WCME Sports. This is our final episode of Season 1, our year-end wrap-up for this year. We're very excited to have made it this far with you. Very excited to get into this show. But first, if you're new to our program, we like to think of ourselves as the sports show for sports fans about sports, right? There is no politics. There are no ulterior motives. There's no money swaying what we say or what we do. We are giving a pure fan's perspective based off of our likes.
Bias.
Yeah, no biases except for our own. We're giving a pure fan's perspective based off of our kind of likes and dislikes, the same way any other fan would out on the street that's not swayed by some other behemoth looking over their shoulder. We also like to think of ourselves as somewhat of an educational program. If you learn something new every time you tune into us, we think we've done our job and we've made you a better fan. Before we get into it, just a reminder to follow us on all of our socials. That's on X, on Instagram, and on Facebook at WCME_sports. You can also visit us on our website at WCMEsports.com. Our episodes drop every Wednesday at noon on Spotify and on YouTube. Now, without further ado, our top catch this week, we turned to America's game, the Army-Navy football game that took place on Saturday at Northwest Field in Landover, Maryland. One of the coolest things that you get to watch each year, we said this before, it's one of the games where you sit through the commercials, right? Not just because there's nothing else on, but because it's part of what you do. Like, you don't want to miss something from this because it is that special. It transcends sports. You heard a lot of people say that. It really does. You're watching all the people who are going to defend you, right, play a football game that you can't play or even fathom playing at that moment. It's kind of really cool. My favorite quote came from CBS analyst Aaron Taylor, who was I believe, two-time All-American lineman at Notre Dame. He's one of the people who created the Joe Moore Award for the top offensive line in the country. And he said, the Army-Navy game is the antidote to the disease of me in the selfie culture. And I thought that was, so cool. It's such a smart statement. It's such a beautiful statement because it really is, right? You're watching people who are playing a sport which, for all intents and purposes now, has become a look-at-me selfish sport. But every single one of them out there is there for unselfish reasons. Completely selfless reasons. They're not getting paid any money. And when they're done, odds are they're not going to get paid money playing this sport. And furthermore, when they get done, they could be shipped off to a foreign land and never come back home. And you're watching those guys do battle on the same field that you watch every SEC player commit abhorrent, unsportsmanlike penalties every play. So it's kind of that juxtaposition. And like he said, it's the antidote to the disease of me, right? You watch that game and then you watch LSU Ole Miss and you go, is this the same sport? Are these the same people of the same age? It's from the same country, right? It's pretty wild and amazing, and that's part of what makes that Army-Navy game so special. Now, if you missed it, Navy came into the game 8-3. Army was 11-1, fresh off their pounding of Tulane in the AAC championship game to clinch that conference title in their first year in that conference. Combined records, so you did the math, 19-4, I think is the best combined record they've ever had going into that game, or at least in a very, very long time. Pretty amazing. You had two great quarterbacks in Bryson Daly and Blake Horvath. Bryson Daly wound up finishing 6th in Heisman Trophy voting, which is pretty amazing. And I mentioned the Joe Moore Award for the nation's top offensive line. That was awarded to Army's offensive line this year, which is also pretty astounding and pretty amazing. For a bunch of guys who are undersized and overlooked, and again, whose primary job is to be soldiers, not football players. It's pretty amazing that they can win that award and be as good as they were. But what was also kind of equally amazing was how this game turned out. Navy took it to them. They took it, their defensive line, Navy took it to the best offensive line in the country. They ran perfect schemes. They were stemming, which means you start in one spot and you move maybe a gap over, and that stemming threw off kind of the blocking scheme, and Army's line couldn't adjust to it, which is surprising considering, again, how good and dominant they had been this whole year. They were disruptive on the offensive and defensive lines, Navy was. They won the little battles. They made the little plays that make the big plays, and they came away with a 31-13 victory that not a lot of people saw coming. I don't think anyone thought this game would be a blowout, but they definitely thought Army would outlast them considering the firepower that they have, considering a common opponent that they had in Notre Dame, who they both lost to big, but Army looked like the much better team playing Notre Dame, that they had a better shot to win that game or at least keep that close. So pretty amazing. Blake Horvath outdueled Bryson Daly by a lot. And it was, pretty amazing to see. I think Army had won 8 of the last 10. So this is kind of one that maybe you saw coming. The Jolly Rogers, Fear the Bones of Navy's Special Edition uniforms, they came out the victors. If you missed it, Army Special Edition uniforms wore for the 101st Airborne or the Band of Brothers from the Battle of the Bulge and Bastogne in the Ardennes Forest. So both uniforms, great historical significance. Just an amazing game overall, fun to watch, and one that I think every person should try to go, whether you're a football fan or not, right? Just as a human being, try to get to that game. I know that's on something we would all like to do. Thoughts? Anything I missed from that game?
Big Daddy Kamlo actually called that game. I mean, no surprise he called it in favor of Navy when I talked to him, but he said...
your father is an alumnus.
Yeah, my father graduated class of 81 at the Naval Academy. He played baseball there. But he, when I talked to him about it, asked, trying to get his thoughts on the game before it happened and see if he's getting his chili ready, all that good stuff. And he said, look, this game is either going to come down to the very last play or it's going to be an absolute blowout, because historically, when one team is better than the other, their mission is to just beat the other team into the absolute ground, which I feel like it's a killer mentality. Like, you don't really see a whole lot of that, but Army Navy, they'll keep their starters in the whole game and just do work. It just keep rubbing your face in the mud. So that was kind of cool to hear Dad's prediction. Didn't call the score, but he did say that he thought Navy would blow him out because Navy was he thought that they would be a little more rested.
Bears 119, Giants negative 47.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Dick will find a way.
Yeah, Dick will find a way.
No, his point though about being well rested is valid, right? We just said that the week before, Army had to play a very good Tulane team. And it was a home game, but they're still out of pressure. You're playing in a championship game. Mm-hmm. They were technically still not out of the playoff. There was some weird backdoor way that they possibly could have gotten in. It wasn't going to happen. But, they were still playing for a lot. Navy had the week off. Navy also had that extra week to prepare, which is something that's discounted there as well. That could have contributed to the scheme that they were able to run to disrupt Army's offensive attack as well.
What about your dad? Did your dad make any wild predictions or anything? This game has to be a big deal for him too.
Well, he is not a West Point grad, but he did serve in the Army Reserves for a number of years and did ROTC. So he would be partial to West Point. Radio silence for the most part. Didn't hear much from him when it came to that. Obviously, he normally rooting for Army during this game, but again, didn't really hear much from him. Maybe he saw it coming too.
Was this a game as big a deal in your household growing up as it was in mine?
We always watched it.
Yeah, but what was your dad just brimming with a sense of pride? Look at those cadets out there. I can vaguely remember my younger years dad doing push-ups with the mids when Navy would score touchdowns. I can vaguely remember that. Didn't last long. But yeah, did your dad ever do anything crazy like that?
No, because it's not the same. Yes, our dad served, but he didn't go to that school. Now, if the Siena team was out there playing it, and the Siena ROTC was out there, right, that'd be a different story. You never hear the end of it for the rest of our lives.
Full dress uniform.
Yes, But no, obviously it was something in our house that we watched every year, and kind of this is what we're going to watch, and here's why, and listen to the stories about why they're doing this, and don't forget X, Y, and Z about the country that you live in, and who the people are that are out in the field. But again, it's a little different. He didn't go there, so it's different. But there's still obviously an emotional tie because of his service, and the rest of our family's service as well was all in the Army.
Sure.
True. Yeah. The ode to the uniforms, the hype videos that they always the 2-minute hype video for explaining why they chose like this uniform and everything. Those are my favorite parts of the game.
Yeah, those are good.
I think Army's video this year was so cool.
Yeah, it was sweet.
About that whole
was an awesome reveal.
Yeah, and to be honest, normally Navy's jerseys kick the shit out of Army's jerseys, just because it's kind of the nature of the U.S. military versus the Navy.
Better color scheme too.
And color scheme, yeah. But this year, I actually thought Army's jerseys had the win, even over the cool ass Fear of the Bones.
Yeah,
I just those helmets and the shoulder pads look so cool because if you don't know anything about the Bastogne during that battle, it was in like foggy snow. So that's literally what their jerseys looked like, was the foggy snow that those guys had to fight in. So that to me was really cool. That might be the best Army jersey they've ever had, because normally they're kind of by nature of like the where they have to serve and the things they have to choose from to emulate
digital desert camo.
yeah, right. But these ones are badass. They were sweet. Obviously, the Jolly Rogers are awesome as well. The Fear of the Bones is such a cool thing. They're an elite air fighting force from the as part of the Navy. So, and I believe they are stationed or home base in Virginia Beach, which is pretty cool as well. So they've probably flown over. Maybe that whatever the other day when you heard that, maybe that was them just doing some practice. But yeah, fun game to watch. Kamala, has your dad been to one after he graduated? Obviously, he would have went to it when he was there.
Yeah,
The mids are required to go, right?
I've been to one. Yeah, when I was younger, yeah. I remember it was obviously very cold, and I couldn't find my winter coat, and because Dad goes to the tailgate and it's a lot of his classmates there, and they do their like chili cook-offs or whatever, and just general like debauchery of sailors, right? Yeah. And,
well, actually, no, that would be Admiral debauchery.
Yeah, Admiral debauchery. But so I remember I went this year that we went. The only heavy coat I could find was a reversible Adidas coat that had Notre Dame all over it. And it was reversible, so like on the windbreaker side it was like a navy blue with like gold stripes, so you think like, oh wow, cool, navy like windbreaker, neat. Then you see the back and it's just a big embroidered ND, and then if you flipped it out and had the windbreaker side on the inside, on the back, like on the back of the other side of it was just a big old fighting leprechaun.
So I actually think I remember this jacket.
Yes,
by the way, I remember this jacket from growing up.
Dad was a little embarrassed, but I was just a little kid, so thankfully, like, I didn't really. If I got flack, it was through Dad. I'm sure his friends like talk their shit to him instead of like to this kid's face.
Yeah, talking behind your back and right to your face.
Yeah. My pops taught me that anyone who talks behind a man's back is a coward. So I'm gonna say it to your face.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but I've been to one. That was fun. But yeah, I mean, Navy games were always a good time. I have a lot of really good memories from Navy football games and basketball games. We went to this is on the subject of Army, but we went to a Navy Army basketball game one year, and the Army cadets rolled up heavy, and they mauled the mascot. They mauled the guy running around in like the in the goat, and they took the head off him and then took it to their student section and was bouncing it around like a beach ball.
Oh god, they probably got killed when they got back to school.
Dude, they got killed there. A bunch of I would say probably like a dozen midshipmen like snuck up behind their student section while they're like playing keepsy upsies. I'm sure they called it something a little more manly than that, but a couple mids rolled up behind them and ran through there like a mosh pit to get this head back. We were sitting right there. I was like,
and people want to complain about flag planting?
Yeah,
please.
I'd never seen anyone get punched in real life before. There, me, Kevin, and our family friends are just sitting there like.
No, I meant they probably got destroyed by their commanding officers when they got 100%. Back to West Point. Like, just you're running till you vomit.
Because a good prank is one that you don't have to be there to see the end result, plausible deniability, but like there's cameras, like that's a televised game.
You can't hide your face.
No.
Yeah.
But I mean, I have a lot of fond memories of that. It's fun. Annapolis is a fun time.
That is a beautiful town.
100%.
I would love to see the town of West Point too, because I'm sure that is beautiful, right on the banks of the Hudson River.
Yeah.
It's kind of amazing. We've never gone up there to see that, so maybe that's something that we should.
We've been like at one point we've been like 5 miles away from it when we take the Bear Bridge or whatever.
Bear Mountain.
Yeah. When we take Bear Mountain, we were like 5 miles from West Point.
That is true. There's always that sign. You go left to West Point, right to, almost certain death over the side of this winding, rickety road on the edge of a mountain.
When we would get dropped off for sports camps at the Naval Academy, Dad would because it's on campus, so you have to go through like a guard post.
Yeah.
And Dad was just always on his like dad joke bullshit when he would drop us off. And so like he'd roll up to the gate and the guy would be like, "How can I help you, sir?" And my dad would be like, "Yeah, what time is noon formation?" And like the guy, like, obviously keeping his military bearing, but like you could just sense the Jesus Christ, like
another one of these guys again.
So I could just dropping my privileged kid off for sports camp, like. Yeah, going to West Point would be cool though. Like going to see it and like see the area. I've actually never even thought to do that. I guess just because it's been like so ingrained to stay in Annapolis, right?
Apparently, their football stadium is beautiful. They're redoing and renovating it. It's literally right on the banks of the river. Like you can see that in the background.
Is it really?
And it's very old too. Like one of the more historic ones. So that's like on the list. I know we didn't have it as our favorite stadiums when we did that a few months ago, but it's on a lot of lists as some of the top stadiums.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, this is beautiful.
Michi Stadium.
Yeah.
Michi.
That's a three-sided stadium. Wow, that's
doing construction.
We're doing construction on that fourth side though. So let's hope they don't obstruct the view too much. But odds are they're probably putting in something that will a little bit. But yeah, it is a cool stadium.
Yeah. So I'm looking at like an image that's like depicting what that side is going to look like. It's going to look like a castle wall.
Cool.
Sweet.
Yeah, that's kind of.
I mean, it was what the strategic fort.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
They're there for a reason.
That's pretty cool.
You always want to control the high ground.
I guess it's not on the river. It's actually on the reservoir.
Yeah.
The stadium's actually on the reservoir, not the river.
I mean, I'd go check it out. I probably would never hear the end of it, but I'd go watch a game there.
Yeah, ditto. I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else from the Army-Navy game before we jump into more college football stuff?
Nah. We had a fun little drinking game during that. Yeah, I was like, oh, take 3 drinks every time they throw a pass. They were throwing 25 total passes.
Just airing it out.
I told you, it should have been finish your drink if they complete a pass.
I mean, they didn't complete many. We did do an extra drink when they did complete a pass because Kayla was watching it and she was like, what do you mean? It's like, it's a football game. Like, she knows NFL, but she doesn't pay attention much to college and like what Army and Navy do. And I'm like, these teams don't throw the football. Like, and she saw the QB throw like one. She's like, oh. Yeah, we're taking another drink if they complete a pass. And I mean, Navy 4 of 9 passing, and then Army 7 of 16.
It's 11.
It's 11 completions.
11 more than some of those games have ever had.
Correct.
Yeah, good point.
A couple beautiful screen passes by Navy.
Yeah, Navy's offense was clicking. They looked good again. A lot of that I think has to go back to the extra week to prepare that they had. The study film to dissect it. I will say one more note before we... actually, 2 more notes. One, with the win, Navy won the Commander-in-Chief's trophy this year. That was up for grabs as well because they'd also beaten Air Force, and Army beat Air Force as well. So they won that trophy, which is cool. But the other thing I thought was cool, reading about, the academies and their coaches. He's head coach Jeff Monken, right? I believe is his name. A lot of people don't realize this, but before he got there, Army was horrendous. Like, Navy was on a Virginia Tech-like dominant streak over West Point. and Army was lucky to win like 3 games a year. And he got there, and as we know, it's, go Army, beat Navy, or go Navy, beat Army. And he got there, and he was like, where are all the beat Navy signs that should be around here? Because that's our rival. That is the thing, right? And he could find like one little placard in like some office. And he was like, we're changing that. And so now literally everything that you own as a Army football player has beat Navy on it somewhere for the most part. All of their weights in the weight room say beat Navy on it.
And it was all for nothing.
Well, they have 10 coming into this game. So that's kind of, and they have a countdown clock on their practice field now that says, how many days, minutes, and hours until the next game. And those are the kinds of things you have to do if you want to have a rivalry. Because again, before he took over, this was a rivalry by name only and by prestige only. It wasn't a rivalry on the field. You were lucky if Army kept the game close, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now it's a legitimate, right? I mean, both teams coming into this, like Navy finished regular season with 9 wins, Army with 11. Like both of these are legitimate, good teams. You're going to see very good football every time you tune this on. And you're going to see 2 teams that are going to give everything because they want to beat their rival. And that means everything to them. And that's not something that you see UVA from a lot of schools in their rivalry games. Right? And so I think that's another kind of very special wrinkle that goes into it.
Yeah, I mean, that goes back to kind of what we were talking about when we were talking about our favorite rivalries was there's a reason that game was on all of our lists.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. And it's, Nick, you hit the nail on the head. I couldn't say it better myself.
Yeah, by the way, Jeff Monken has 6 of the last 9 now. He's won over Navy.
Huge.
And he was looking for his 3rd in a row and did not get it.
He did not.
He did not.
Again, I love the quote, the antidote to the disease of me and the selfie culture. That's exactly what that game was. Now, moving on, if you guys could, someone kindly display the FBS college football playoff bracket for us as we give one last discussion into this before we sign off for the year.
Oh, yeah.
Just to recap, the teams at the top 4 seeds that won those byes: Oregon number 1, Georgia number 2, Boise State number 3, and Arizona State number 4. You have Texas versus Clemson. Winner will play Arizona State. Tennessee, Ohio State. Winner plays Oregon. SMU, Penn State. Winner plays Boise State. And Indiana, Notre Dame. The winner will play Georgia. Now, who you got?
Dude, the line. So you guys are the college football guys. So I mean, just starting with Clemson, Texas. That Texas is a -12 favorite. Is that?
I don't like that at all.
That's a pretty disrespectful line, I feel like.
Yeah, I think Texas wins that game. I think Texas is a better team, but I don't like that line at all because I haven't seen Texas too much. I haven't seen Texas do anything. Like they've beaten the teams they're supposed to beat, but I mean, I guess their only 2 losses are against Georgia, and they have not looked good in those games.
Clemson, when they played Georgia, lost 34-3.
Yeah.
Granted, first game of the year.
First different team.
Still counts, though, but I think that plays into it, right? You're looking at Clemson's 2 SEC games. Blowout to Georgia, and then you lose by a field goal to South Carolina. So
there's something about Texas that just doesn't give me confidence.
Agreed. I don't know why.
That's just a crazy line to me. I mean, like all the other ones are like 1-score, 2-score games, right?
I'm looking at the Penn State SMU. That one to me that's the biggest like weather advantage game. All the other games there isn't a weather advantage, right? People are like, oh, the South, like Tennessee going to Columbus, like no, it's this pretty much the exact same temperature in Knoxville as is in Columbus.
But it's different. It's a mindset. It's a culture thing. That kid, if they grew up in Ohio versus if they grew up in Tennessee, even though you are right, really by the crow flying, it's not that far, is still a massive difference in terms of mindset. It's not quite Miami going up to Wisconsin and playing, but it's
But Penn State, SMU, it's like 20 degrees and snowing in Happy Valley, or I guess College. Was it College Park or not College Park? That's Maryland. What's Penn State? Yeah, where's Penn State?
Happy Valley's right, but you're State College.
State College. That's what it is. State College. But it's SMU in Dallas, it's a place to be. That's what it is. SMU in Dallas, I think it's like 60 degrees or something. Like
Yeah,
Or
I
probably
will say
warmer.
that game might be the most intriguing of all of them because, like you said, you have that, but also the games at noon. I think that takes a huge advantage away from Penn State.
Absolutely.
Their biggest advantage is to play a game at night. We talked about this before with their loss when they lost to Ohio State. I believe that was a noon game.
Yes, it was.
And they got, dominated, really. That score was closer than it should have been in that Ohio State game. And a lot of that, yes, the stadium will be packed, but it is different going into Happy Valley, Beaver Stadium, if you will, and playing Penn State at noon versus 7:30, 8 o'clock. I mean, it is like, it's like night and day.
Stop.
No, I'll take my ball and leave. Thank you.
But
yeah, that I think could play into it too. Like if the weather holds off and it's no precipitation and it's just like cold, like 40 degrees, I think you almost give some advantage to SMU because of the fact that they're not going to feel that whiteout atmosphere of a night game.
True.
What about how are you guys feeling on the Notre Dame that's like the spread there has it at just a straight up -7. So experts are thinking it's going to be a very, very close game.
It's
do you buy that at all?
The smallest home field advantage, or the least amount of home field advantage is that game.
Yeah.
Notre Dame Stadium, by the way, it's a beautiful stadium. It's very family friendly. That is not a raucous atmosphere. And maybe they'll prove me wrong, but I doubt it. I like Indiana in that game. I think Indiana's got something to prove.
I do too.
Yeah, I think this is for Notre Dame, especially where they're located. Like you said, this is really not who they wanted to see because there's now an extra chip. Again, there was already a giant chip on the shoulders of all the Hoosiers players. There's an extra chip now. We're playing Notre Dame. They are whatever couple hours away from us, and guarantee they didn't bother to even sniff looking at any of you guys over here, right? And you're in the same state as them, right? You've got probably all of these things that you could put on your bulletin board that wouldn't be up there if Notre Dame was playing Tennessee, right? And that, I think, hurts Notre Dame. I still, as much as I love Indiana's story, and
you think it ends here?
Sig down there, ripping Sigs.
Sig 10.
Yeah, Notre Dame's playing some of the best football in the country, arguably the best football in the country of any team. So you give them a home game, and yes, like you said, it's not like going into the big house at Michigan, but it's still a home game. It's still going to be packed and sold out. It's still not an easy place to go play with Touchdown Jesus in the background. So I give the edge to Notre Dame. I still think they are going to come out and win that game, as much as I would love to see Indiana, because it would validate so much for Indiana.
Indiana's defensive front is better than people think. I think it's going to be more difficult to run the football than what Notre Dame's been used to.
But Notre Dame has been playing complete team football. That's the difference. They haven't been relying on one specific person or thing. They're playing complete team football, all three phases of the game. To that means
you think
something.
Indiana
as well.
Hasn't?
It's not in the last couple weeks at the same level that Notre Dame has since they lost to Northern Illinois.
Okay.
In my humble opinion,
I like Indiana in that one.
I'll take Indiana in that one.
I'll take Indiana. Are we going through just our first round? We're going through all.
I was just saying, give me your picks to win. Who you have in the championship game? Who over who?
Oregon.
Over who?
Give me Oregon over Boise State.
Okay. All right. Boy, going out on a limb there. I got Oregon over Georgia. I picked that was my pick from the start of the year. I'm sticking to it. Georgia slipped in there in that bye where I thought they would have to play one more game, which might destroy my Oregon national championship thing because I thought they'd be too many games. But I have Oregon over Georgia.
I'm gonna take Georgia over Ohio State. I hate Ohio State. That's well documented.
Wow.
I dislike Ohio State, but they're gonna. Tennessee, I think, has too many weaknesses. They'll get exposed, especially with such a young quarterback in such a big environment and moment. I could very much see Ohio State 2 touchdowns winning that game.
Okay.
going to play Oregon. They're not going to Eugene. That'll be a neutral
Correct, that's a
site
neutral
for
site.
the Rose Bowl, I think, is what
That
that
is the
game
Rose
is.
Bowl, yes.
So yes, would favor Oregon, but it doesn't. You're playing the Rose Bowl. The stadium's going to be split, half green, half scarlet. It's an old-fashioned Rose Bowl type of matchup too, even though they're technically in the same conference now. But it's hard to beat a team more than once in a season, right? And the fact that Oregon at home had to barely beat them and got some fortunate things to happen with them, and I think Ohio State. They talk about chip on their shoulder after that Michigan loss, after all this, doubt. This is going to be that game will be a put up or shut up moment, like a make it or break it moment almost, which is kind of crazy for a team that's had so much regular season success in the last 6-7 years. And I think that desperation, coupled with pressure on Oregon and rustiness on Oregon's part because of having all these weeks off, is going to contribute to a Buckeye win, unfortunately. I think they'll ride that momentum to defeat whoever they have coming up next, and that they'll get them to the championship game against Georgia. And Georgia, like I said, was my pick to begin the year. They have the best coach in the country, and when it comes down to things in these crunch time moments, in these pressure-packed situations, the best coach makes the difference, right? Especially at this level. And so Kirby Smart, I think, is going to at least get his team past their first game. I couldn't envision them losing that first game, and I think if they can get some of that momentum, they can ride that to that championship.
Okay.
There's a matchup that I do really want to see, and it's Boise Penn State.
It'd be interesting.
Yeah, I want to see Janty go against, like, Penn State's a historically great Big Ten run defense. They've got big boys up there.
Linebacker U is what they dub themselves.
Linebacker U, yes. I that's a matchup I want to see. But what about that top piece there? Clemson, Texas, winner against Arizona State. Who you got coming out of that?
Texas, and then playing the Sun Devils. Give me the Sun Devils.
Yeah, I want Arizona
I
State.
want to pick Arizona State, but I feel like it's gonna be Texas.
I want it so bad because, and I'm gonna go with it because Texas left the Big 12. Arizona State then comes into the Big 12, picked to finish last in that conference, ends up winning it. And then how great would it be if they played Texas and beat Texas?
Yeah. No, I agree. It would be great.
Scadaboo,
we love Cam Scadaboo here on the show. It's just Arizona State. They're going to be without Jordan Tyson, which their leading receiver. Who
they look great without him.
They look great without him, but
Texas
give Texas a little bit of time if they were to beat Clemson, and give Clemson some time if they were to beat Texas to prepare for Arizona State minus their best pass catcher. Those two coaches, I feel like, are too good at exposing a weakness like that, and I could see that coming back to haunt the Sun Devils. But man, I would love to see Arizona State win. Like I said, it'd be validation. It would be kind of a shut your mouth, SEC people.
God, that's what I want. That's what I want so bad. Shut up, SEC. There are other schools in the country that are good.
What is the opposite of a bias? So I think that's what we have towards the SEC on this show.
Unbiased?
I don't have the issue is that we see
profound hatred.
Profound hatred. I have no problem with it.
Loathing?
The SEC is the best conference top to bottom. I have no problem saying it, but the issue that we go with is that all of these people want the SEC to be guaranteed 4 teams in now. They want. I saw a thing where someone wants the top 4. If you finish top 4 in the SEC, you're automatically in. There's no conference championship, and there will be a play-in game that if you're tied, you don't do a conference championship, you do a play-in game to get into the playoff, which is the dumbest thing. They want to guarantee that, which means the Big 12 and the ACC would be left out again. And it bothers me because there are great football players and great coaches outside of the SEC. Yes, the SEC they will produce the most NFL players. They will produce, the big NIL money and the bigger, coaches or whatever, the bigger brands and the bigger names and all that stuff. Yes, that's all true. But there is a lot of talent outside of the SEC. And I think if you look at the projected draft in April, the first 5 picks are going to be Big 12 and Big 10.
Yeah, no, I was going to say a lot of why these SEC players get picked is because of the measurables, which is why there were high recruits.
Yeah.
Right, all those things you project someone to have the best chance to have the best future based off of their physical ability, right? It's
By the way,
kind of
there
the
was
idea
like
that if you have all these gifts, technically your ceiling is here where someone's is here, right? And so you pick the highest potential. But at the end of the day, when you look at NFL rosters and you look at the guys who are on the field contributing on NFL teams, yes, you will see a shit ton of SEC guys, but it's not as many as you think. It's not what like you said. What they want to make it think is that the NFL is just the SEC All Star teams, and it's not. You look at some of the best teams in the league, the teams that are producing the most and winning the most games. There are guys from all over, and a lot of these guys come from smaller schools too.
Well, I can look at like the Kansas City Chiefs who won
Chiefs.
back-to-back Super Bowls, and the best quarterback of a generation went to Texas Tech. By the way, they were 6-6 when he was there.
Yeah,
like they weren't anything special when Mahomes was at Texas Tech.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, even if you just go, like I said,
Detroit, Jared Goff went to Cal, and their running back Montgomery, who just got hurt, unfortunately, went to Iowa State.
I mean, you could stay with the Chiefs, right? They just waived the LSU running back they took in the first round, Clyde Edwards-Helaire,
for the Rutgers,
in favor of undrafted Isaiah Pacheco from Rutgers, Carson Steele from Ball State and UCLA.
It's amazing. Right? Look at the All-American list from this year. The AP All-American list, the first and second team. If you look at those lists, I mean, literally, all you have to do is look at those two AP All-American lists, and you go, talent spread across the country. That's kind of amazing.
Yeah. But
I mean, the team that will have there's a team in the Big 12 that will have the first 2 draft picks, most likely, and they lost 3 games and didn't make the playoffs.
Yeah,
By the way, the 4-star and 5-star thing too. What bothers me about this is, like, if you're a 4-star or 5-star recruit, one of the biggest reasons why you're that star, that high caliber star, is because you are ready to play right away. That's one of the biggest things. If you're a 3-star guy, you're most likely going to need a year or 2 of development to get your body ready to all of these different things, like these measurables that you need to hit. If you're a 5-star guy, you're already, lightning in a bottle, or you're built like an absolute tank, right? At 18 years old. That's the difference between those players.
Well, and the other thing too, football, more than any other sport, measurables mean the least on the football field of any sport, right? It's not like I have this 6'5" pitcher who throws the ball 102 miles an hour. That's going to be hard to hit no matter who you are. Aaron Judge, Juan Soto, Ohtani, best hitters in the league are going to have trouble hitting a 6'5", 102 mile an hour fastball pitcher, right? But you throw out the most physical specimen, D lineman, and just because you're that specimen doesn't mean you're going to be dominant. You could come across offensive guard who is a better football player than you, right? Works harder than you, better technique, gives more effort. That will beat you. And that's not quantifiable on a stat sheet. That only shows up when you watch game film. And so that's why the biggest predictor in NFL productivity is still college productivity. How did they do? Not what do they look like? How much can they bench press? How high can they jump? Yeah, all those things are great.
Showcase players.
Yeah, it looks good. It's fun. They make money off of it, but it doesn't determine winning or losing. And that's why
you can also look at
the teams that win the NFL don't rely on that.
You can look at the quarterback play too in college, and honestly a lot in the NFL now too. Quarterback play has not been great. No, and a lot of it is showcase talent. Like this guy's a 5-star, he's going to come in right away. Well, he's a 5-star because he throws an absolute missile, can throw it 70 yards, specimen. Can run a 4.5, and is 6'3", 200, right? But can he play the position?
He's never been taught it. He's never had to. Because he's been that specimen, and he's had the best athletes to throw to, right, and the best athletes to block for him. So he's not sitting there having to make reads, maneuver in the pocket, having to make a throw while getting his chin knocked in. He's not having to do that.
Joe Milton at Tennessee last year? I think he threw the ball like 72 miles an hour at the NFL draft. It was like, holy crap, this is amazing. Like, yeah, but what did he do at Tennessee? It wasn't very good. And then we saw, like, I don't know, he's like a third stringer on a team that I don't know if he's going to get a chance to play. Yeah, he'll show flashes. We've seen Anthony Richardson in Indy get benched. I mean, maybe he got some motivation. Now he's starting to play the way he's supposed to. But
not this past weekend. But you're right. Yeah, it's measurables only.
Showcase.
Measurables are just things on paper. That's all they are. They're numbers. They're things on paper. The things you plug into the simulation, but they don't directly translate all the time into success.
That's
on
why
a football
that's
field.
why it comes
really
across,
more than any other sport. I think
that's why it comes across with us like bashing the SEC. It's because the SEC is undefeated in hypotheticals. That's the SEC. They always put out hypotheticals. It's always a Vegas line. It's always how many blue chip recruits did you have? All these things on paper and saying this team is better than this team. Well, when you get between the lines and play it, like sometimes that's not the case, and you need to earn everything on the field.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry I said anything. Goddamn.
I'll hang up and listen.
It needs to be said.
I'll hang up and listen. Mm-hmm. Anything else college football wise before we move on?
No, sir.
All right, anyone got some updated league standings? Can we start with let's start with the Premier League, Conlo. You got that for us?
Got it right here.
Dive into that. The English Premier League, soccer or football.
A lot of surprises in here.
Very much so, right? You brought up Man City earlier. Man City pretty far down in terms of where they're used to being 1 or 2. 1, and I believe I see them down there at 5th.
Yeah, they're sitting at 5th, and like they got off to that hot start. I remember we could not stop talking about Erling Haaland and how he was scoring more goals than the other teams are scoring. Well, they've cooled off quite a bit with only a +5 goal differential, and they've dropped 5 games, which is probably more losses than their like previous like 2 or 3 seasons combined.
Yes. Yeah, it's crazy. I've seen a lot of almost internal rumors of like, well, this is the end of the era for Man City.
I mean, we've talked about windows on this show a lot. Like, like a team only has a certain number of years, a certain a big enough window for so long, and I mean, we might be starting to see that.
And part of
the window close.
Yep, and another team with the closing window is Liverpool. Like I think Mo Salah said that the last time he's going to be playing at Man City or something like that because he may be leaving the league or retiring or something. But to see them at the top of the table, all that is interesting. Chelsea there at number 2 should not surprise people. They were loaded with young talent, absolutely loaded with young talent. Cole Palmer, one of the big names there. But maybe the surprise is that they're ahead of schedule. Right, you talk about windows and your Orioles, not this year, but the year before, they were deemed ahead of schedule, and Chelsea's kind of in that boat here with them sitting 2 in the table. Pretty amazing for some people, but really shouldn't be a surprise because they have again loaded with talent. Nottingham Forest up there is massive surprise. Massive surprise.
And they're you talk about a team that doesn't have a lot of Premier League experience, right? They're a team that's up and down. You don't really see them for a consistent amount of time in the top tier league here. Them being 4th place with a +2 goal differential, sitting at 8 wins, 4 draws, and 4 losses tells me that they're getting the job done, and they're stealing games.
Yes. They're keeping themselves in every game.
Yes, 100%.
Giving themselves a shot.
They're looking really, really good.
Pretty amazing. I mean, some of these other Bournemouth up there, Fulham up there in the top 10, Brighton. Those aren't teams that you normally see up there, right? And we haven't even mentioned Tottenham.
Tottenham's sitting 10, Man U 13.
United's a mess. Newcastle spent all this money. They're down there. Everton's been a mess the last couple of years. They're down there. It's kind of amazing. It's almost like maybe we're seeing a little bit of what we talked about with college football of, Tottenham's always going to have more talent than Fulham, right? But talent on paper only takes you so far. Now, soccer is normally a sport where that talent almost always wins out because of just the nature of it. But the fact that you only have to score once to win, and you don't have to score at all to get a point, right? You can tie.
Yeah. My job just got a lot easier.
Right?
No playoffs.
It shows one that more parity. Right, we talk about the parity in college football. A lot that is parity right there. The fact that a Fulham and a Nottingham Forest and a Bournemouth can be where they are on the table this far into the year, and a Man U and a Tottenham and a Newcastle, who has all the resources in the world now after they got that new owner, are that far below them is parity. And going back to the fact that you can get talent out there. There's so much talent out there you can get, and just because X team spends this amount of money does not necessarily mean that they are that much better than you. It still has to be decided on the pitch. And those kind of surprises there, maybe we shouldn't treat them as surprises anymore in the Premier League. Right? Yes, this could be a blip. This could be a one-year thing. But I feel like the last few years you haven't seen the so-called top six, which is what Man City, Man U, Liverpool, Chelsea, Tottenham, and Arsenal.
Correct.
Right? I think our top six. You haven't seen them finish as the top six. You've seen some of them mid-table.
Yes.
And I think that goes to the parity and the depth of talent in the Premier League. That's one of the reasons that I think the Premier League is the best football league in the world, because they have so much talent spread out so much. And even some of these championship level teams, which is the level right below the Premier League, they could be up there and competing mid-table, I believe, in the Premier League. There's a lot of talent in English football, and I think this is the biggest example. My poor Leicester City, they are sitting just above the relegation line, right above the Fighting Ed Sheerans in Ipswich Town.
I don't think Leicester City has really anything to worry about, though. I mean,
didn't they just sack their manager?
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. Something about that team tells me that they don't really have a whole lot to worry about. Now, nothing on this table indicates that, right? Because, I mean, my big indicator when I look at a table like this is goal differential, right? Because, like, you can see, like, outliers, right? So Aston Villa at 7, but a -1 goal differential tells me that they got just blown out in one game. But
or they're overachieving.
Yes. And then you come down here. You look at a team like Southampton, right? 11 goals for them, 36 goals against them. That's just a trash team that's going to get relegated.
Yeah.
But like you look at Leicester, their goals for, goals against are maybe a little closer. 34 isn't a great number that you want to see against, but you can see here like 21 goals for. You know, Man U has 21 goals for. West Ham has 21 goals for. Whereas, like, you look up at, like, Everton. They only have 14 goals for them. Ipswich only has 16, right? So I think Leicester's going to be safe from relegation. I mean, granted, like, a lot can happen. I think, we have, like, 20 more games left to play
or something
halfway,
like that.
Right? We're about halfway. I don't think Leicester has anything to worry about.
You see some regression to the mean. Is that what you're saying? That they maybe underachieve results wise. And that on paper they're worse than what they really are. You could see that. The Fighting Ed Sheerans, it'd be cool if they could stick around. He's become part of the ownership group at Ipswich Town. Been a lifelong supporter. So it'd be cool to keep him and them in the Premier League. It'd be a nice story. Cool to see him around the grounds there.
We need to start making way for the Wrexham boys. We need to start clearing some people out for Wrexham. Here we go, baby.
Yeah, they're League One, right?
Yeah.
Are they in position to be promoted, or they still have work to do?
Last time I checked, they were sitting second in their league. I haven't checked in probably a couple weeks now, but they're looking formidable.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
To go from where they were 5th division to have a chance in a couple years to be
being a step above away. Beer League. Yeah, they were a step above Beer League when those guys took over, and now like they can't improve the racetrack grounds fast enough to like just support the level that they've like risen to so quickly.
What's going on there?
Fuck is going on over there?
His headphones got knocked
out.
I
took a sip of water, and the makeshift end table that I have to set my computer on grabbed my... it just came out of freaking nowhere, man. Grabbed my cord here because I am not wireless and yanked my headphones out.
So Wrexham is sitting in 3rd place, and they're back 2 points from first.
Wow. Who's
Should
first?
they Wycombe,
And who's second?
Birmingham, which is a very that's an experienced club.
Is that the team Tom Brady is an owner of?
It might actually be. Who owns Birmingham City FC?
Wouldn't it be Birmingham?
Birmingham. Tom Brady is a minority owner of that club.
Oh, wouldn't that be great if they could take down Tom?
He's an owner, and he's a minority owner in name only. He has no voting rights with the club.
Yeah,
so that's
still,
interesting.
he's in there. He's getting a cut of the jib.
Oh yeah, I mean,
the hell's a
about.
jib?
I don't know. A vast G80.
There's no comeback for that.
No. All right, anything else Premier League wise, Kamlo, that you wanted to highlight?
Anything can happen. I mean, anything from an injury to just a team, watching a good stretch of Friday Night Lights and getting motivated. Anything can happen out there. There's a lot of football left to play.
I like it.
I would like to see. I mean, if real quick, if I'm pulling for anything other than like a Liverpool league win because they desperately need it, I want to see Nottingham Forest stay in the top 4 and watch them go UEFA next year. That would be so cool. That'd be so cool for them. But yeah, that's my take.
Yeah, I like it. Next, what do you got, Kamlo? Which league we're gonna wrap up here this calendar year?
We have
hockey or basketball.
Let's go basketball. I'm curious to see where we're at with this. I haven't really
we just
paid a whole lot of
the
attention
NBA
to basketball.
Cup. Didn't we just set the finals for the NBA Cup? Is that
probably
where the semifinals have been set?
The trophy for the most ridiculously colored floor.
Yeah. But yes, our Cleveland Cavaliers, we talk about a lot. They're still best record in the league. Still getting contributions up and down their lineup from, again, they're the team each day. A new person could be a leading scorer. The Celtics still look formidable. You still got to think them as the favorites to repeat. Just there's giving you no reason not to, right, over there in the East. And the rest of those teams are very tight, which is what you would kind of expect. Knicks, Magic, Bucks, all Heat, all returning playoff teams from last year.
How many teams make the playoff in the NBA?
Well, technically it's 8, but the seeds 7 through 10 do a mini playoff, and
my God,
the two teams that survive that are seeds 7 and 8.
Whatever happened to just like, here's your regular season, here's the teams that like the 6 teams or whatever it used to be make it into the postseason. Like, what is going on? The NBA is just, it's hard to watch.
It's money.
And that makes some money.
Right, but here's a comparison to the NBA Cup. It's the same as the FA Cup. And in a lot of ways. It's a in-league, intra-league, in-season elimination tournament. Yes, you have a pool play with the NBA Cup, but it's kind of that. It's along the same kind of idea as that, to give there an incentive to play these games. They count as regular season games. The college basketball, the play-in, that's designed to make sure you give maximum chances for your faces of the game to be there and be exposed. So these are all actually very brilliant business decisions, but from an educated fan standpoint, it's convoluted and almost infuriating at times to try to understand it. But from a business standpoint, it is bloody brilliant. It really is, right? Because you could have Steph Curry's team finish 9th, and in normal format, they're done, no questions asked. But Steph Curry, who is maybe the all-time shot maker, who can single-handedly win a game, one of the few people in the history of the sport that can do that, has a shot to will his team into the playoffs and be on TV more and more and more, making your organization, not just the Warriors, but the NBA, more and more money. It's brilliant from a business standpoint there. But it does get confusing. It's not easy to follow. And that's hard, right? Another story in the East, the Sixers suffered a huge blow with Embiid getting a facial fracture recently. He had not been playing a lot to begin with for whatever reasons. They've been atrocious.
That
even with him there.
Stays getting hurt.
Yeah, they that could be a team that misses the playoffs and woefully underachieves and may have to ship some guys for salary
Mm-hmm.
cap reasons. And our Zards are, whew, oh, go Zards!
It's
Is that
so
three
bad.
wins? Is that what I
Yeah.
believe they have? Oh,
Something that's like, again, like I'm big into looking at like differentials when it comes to looking at tables. Look at the defense that the Magic are playing. 103.5 points per game for their opponents. That's crazy.
especially at a time when points are scored at
Yeah, like
the most rapid rate ever.
they're right there. Look, they allow the same amount of points per game as first place in the West, OKC Thunder.
Yeah. Now,
That's
the Magic are a
wild.
team you don't want to play because much like the Cavaliers, they got a little taste of postseason play last year, and they have a lot of young talent that now has experience, and they have a lot of guys that can do a lot of different things. And I think one of their issues last year is they relied too heavily on Paolo Banchero. Um, I think you're going to see a little less of the burden on him, especially with the Wagners. I think Franz and Mo are both on the Magic, and both of them playing really well. One of them, I think, got hurt, which is a big blow to them. But as long as you have some other guys step up for Orlando, they've got a shot to make some noise come playoff time.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to play them. Let's just say that. I don't want to play the Magic, especially because they're probably going to be in the middle of that the bracket there. They're not going to catch Cleveland and Boston. So you're looking at New York, Milwaukee, Miami, Atlanta, those types of teams having to play in Orlando, and it's not a good matchup. I don't think for a lot of them who don't want to play the Magic. Now the Western Conference, you said the Thunder first place. They were the number one seed last year. To a lot of people's surprise, I think now this shouldn't be a surprise. SGA Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is phenomenal. If he were American, you'd hear a lot more about him. He's Canadian, so that's, I think, why we don't hear as much about him as we should. But they're a very good team. Memphis up there shows you just the effect that John Morant has. The great Doug Howard, I believe, has said this before in talking with him, that John Morant's a guy that when he's on the TV, you need to turn it on and watch it because he's just that different from what you see from other people, and you're going to wish you watched him more when he retires. Yeah. I think you're seeing that effect there of a team last year when he had all those issues going on, right? Suspended, injured, in a team that couldn't even make the playoffs, and now sitting there number 2. That's how much difference he makes. The Rockets, kind of like the Magic, shouldn't surprise people as much as it is going to. Mm-hmm. They were having this upward trend last year. Again, my man Alperen Şengün out there. You got Fred Van Vliet and a couple other guys. I think Jalen Green is another one of the young guys producing a lot. Osar Thompson, I think, is also on there. Another young guy producing a lot. So they have a lot of young talent. They were on that upward trajectory last year. This shouldn't surprise people how well they're playing, but the fact that they're above some of these other teams, that's the eye-catching thing, that they're above a Dallas, a Denver, a Phoenix, and LA, a Golden State, right? Outperforming the Clippers, outperforming groups of guys that have so much talent. But again, Houston, maybe not this year, but next year is not a team I want to face in the playoffs if they make it. Mm-hmm. The Nuggets, Jokic is the best player on the planet. You could say it's arguable. I would say it's not, based off of just what he's done over the course of the last 5 years. He's the best player on the planet right now. So that's a team you don't want to face. And there's just, again, the depth of talent that we haven't gotten to Minnesota, who we love. My man Anthony Edwards, the Ant-Man, love them. You haven't even got to Sacramento with Sabonis, who I absolutely love. There's so much talent there. You got the Lakers, who can't be counted out with LeBron. You got the Warriors that can't be counted out with Steph. Wemby, who is making leaps and bounds and strides. I think a lot of it has to do with Chris Paul. They're out there in the West, so there is so much going on in the West. Well, it feels like there always is. So, just something to look for. That could be one of those where it's just a war of attrition. And you're going to see a really good team get left out. You could see a Sacramento or one of the LA teams get left out of the playoffs, not even make the play-in. Right? I think that is not out of the realm of possibility. And you could see a team like a Phoenix, Dallas, Denver, where they are right now in the middle of that group of Minnesota, and getting some upsets happening because they're going to have to play maybe either each other or some of these younger teams like Memphis, Houston, and OKC.
Cool. Dead
air.
Yeah. No, I don't have I'm working the standings. I don't have dead air queued up.
Oh, come on. You owe us then. Later in the show, you owe us a Frank Reynolds dead air.
Okay. Maybe
drop.
I'll play it during a different segment.
Okay. How about some hockey before we get into some NFL stuff?
Yes, let's get into some hockey.
Real man sport. You take a puck off the face and you score a goal. I believe the Caps...
The winningest team right now. Best winning percentage in the league.
Holy, correct? Not just Eastern Conference?
No. We can sort it if you'd like. Winnipeg and Minnesota
are above them. They've been playing some good hockey. But yeah,
who's on Winnipeg that I should know?
Connor Hellebuck, Mark Scheifele, Kyle Connor, Josh Morrissey.
I can zoom in on this if it's for you guys.
Nikolai Ehlers. I think there's another name for you.
Hellebuck, the goalie, would be the one that sticks out the most.
Correct.
He was a Vezina finalist last year.
Connor Hellebuck, who's American, should be starting in goal for the U.S. in the Four Nations Cup. He's arguably the best goalie in the world. I think there's a good case that he is the best goalie in the world. He's Winnipeg's goalie, so that's one of the biggest reasons where if he's on, it doesn't matter what the other guys do around him. But you have some good firepower. Scheifele and Connor have put up some numbers and have been really good. Josh Morrissey's defenseman put up a lot of numbers, so they're dangerous. But the Caps, I think, are the story.
And they're doing it without Ovechkin right now.
Yes.
Without the most prolific goal scorer at a minimum of our generation, if not of all time. They're just firing on all cylinders. Spencer Carberry has just done wonders with that squad. I mean, the talent that he cultivated in Hershey is playing a huge role right now. The trades that he's made to bring back some good guys and bring in some help in weak areas. I mean, just bringing in Chikrin back on the blue line alone to play with Carlson. Carlson was one of the oldest defensemen in the league last year, but was averaging the most time on ice per game in the whole league. And now he's got someone like Chikrin to play with him to help carry that burden. I mean, they're firing on all cylinders. They dropped a game last night, which would have put them, I think, like 11 wins in a row on the road or something like that. They dropped to Dallas last night, which was a tough one, but yeah, they look really, really good.
Yeah. No, the Connor McMichael's another one. Dylan Strome.
Yep.
Is that Dylan Strome's been fantastic as a centerman. They've Charlie Lindgren has been very good as a goalie. No, and I think one of the more underrated goalies, in my opinion. Yeah, they look good. Notice here, do you see the Rangers anywhere?
No, and I actually
suck.
I have a good story about the Rangers, actually. Apparently, players and coaches held a closed-door meeting sometime over the last 2 days to talk about their GM, Chris Drury, and how they're not happy with what he's doing. They aired grievances.
Thank you. It's not even Festivus yet.
Yeah, which is apropos for the time of year. They aired their grievances about, apparently none of the guys wanted to see Trouba go.
No, it was a pure money decision.
Yes, that's exactly what it was. It was a salary cap decision, and they sent him away to Anaheim for pennies on the dollar.
Yes.
Which is ridiculous. But yeah, there's a lot of mounting frustrations that I think are probably going to come to a head here soon. Up there at Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, not good. Not good up there. They have as much talent as any freaking team in the league.
Mm-hmm.
And to be playing the way they are, to have the internal divisiveness that they have is uncalled for. It's unprofessional. At this level, it's
And not just at this level, but for a
Disheartening.
team that's an original six,
Yes.
like you need to be better. Like
Yeah.
there's so much pride there, not just being a New York team, but being an original six team, right? Being a cornerstone of the league. And like these are the stories that are coming out of your camp, out of your locker room. You can't have that.
No, and it's
100% cannot have that.
It's emblematic of kind of the Rangers' existence, really, for the last 50, 60 years. They have one championship. And it's
Great
94,
teams,
Messier,
horrible front office.
Yeah, and having not going out and getting the right pieces to fill voids properly, not necessarily putting players in their best position, and these are things you can't have. And when you have all the resources there, now a couple teams I want to point out: the defending champ Panthers up there doing their thing. They're it's hard to repeat. They're probably not going to repeat. They're probably running out of gas, to be honest, especially with how physical they play.
Yes.
Still producing, though. But the one team I'm afraid of, I wouldn't want to see, is the Ottawa Senators.
Yes.
They have all the things you need. They have the goalie and Linus Ullmark. Yep. They have Brady Tkachuk, right?
Yes.
Brady Tkachuk, Drake Batherson, Tim Stützle. They've got the firepower offensively. And on the defensive end, you have Shabbat is still there. Thomas Shabbat is a multi-time All-Star. But maybe the key is Travis Hamonic, who is the bruising defensive defenseman that you have to have in the playoffs to succeed. And so they have all of the pieces. That is a team I don't want to play in the playoffs or in the regular season at all. They've got too much going on all levels, offensively, defensively, in the net, that you don't want to deal with that.
Which, like, good for them too, because like I can't remember the last time we saw a postseason competitive Senators team.
I mean, I think it's been a decade since they went to the playoffs, and then they made that one Stanley Cup run when we were kids. Yeah,
it's been a long time. It's been a long time,
something like that. But yeah, no, you're right. That's a franchise that's been mired in not just mediocrity, but like non-competitive.
If I was a conspiracy theorist, like I would have said that, like, because there's always been rumors that Bettman favors the United States over Canada in terms of team locations. And there were rumors swirling that he wanted to relocate and do a new team. I would have bet, had it not been for Arizona, Ottawa could have been in that conversation, because they have not been a very good team for like a long time.
Yeah. No, I agree. It would be a nice story to see them win, or just do well. Then out west, like we talked about Winnipeg, they cooled off significantly, but they're still.
Speaking of Canadian teams, sheesh.
Yes. Minnesota, the Wild, maybe a little outperforming what some people thought from them, but they have one of the best pure goal scorers in the league in Kirill Kaprizov. He's a must-watch. Vegas is always going to be competitive. They've done such a good job with the culture there. But the Oilers down there, Oilers, Canucks, and Avalanche, three of the best teams that we saw last year, not as high as they should. Now, yes, still producing, still playing well, still you got to think should feel comfortable about their abilities to make the playoffs considering who's below them, but maybe some work to do there trade deadline time with those couple teams.
Specifically Vancouver and Colorado. Edmonton, I don't really know like what their cap space looks like. I know that they're paying a lot of guys, but I also know that they've been dealing with some injuries in Edmonton as well. But I mean, you got to think with Draisaitl and McDavid on your team, you're going to find a way, right? I mean, you have to, right? We'll go back to the Windows conversation. You have to find a way, right? With a team that has that like caliber of a 1-2 punch, you cannot miss playoffs ever. Yes, you need to be capitalizing. I like seeing Dallas here. You know, they kind of have the same rhythm going that we saw last year, right? With a lot of big names that we recognize from our childhood, but like a lot of really, really capable young talent. I love seeing Dallas there. The
Utah Hockey
Kings.
Club is nice to see them being competitive. I will say that.
Yes, yeah, the good middle of the table team right now. In the West, coming out of the West. Utah Hockey Club. That's a good one. Because again, like this isn't a expansion team. This is a relocation team.
Yes,
so
these are the Coyotes teams.
a lot of these guys were guys that were on the shitty Phoenix, Arizona Coyotes teams that were playing in a college ice house. So to see this, like we talked last week when we talked about football with the change of scenery. Like these guys just needed to get out from under the toxic, horrible ownership group and just have a new change of scenery, get into a place where it's more appropriate to play hockey. And like look at them. I don't consider it thriving, but like
they're being competitive. They're competing. They're not a laughing stock, which is what you saw from the Coyotes in previous years.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I love seeing them right there. That's a good point out there, Nick.
Now, two teams I wouldn't want to play, if I'm just looking at that, is Colorado and Edmonton, because they have arguably the two best players in the world, and Connor McDavid and Nathan McKinnon.
Yes.
And anytime you can throw and know that I have the best player on the ice gives you an advantage, or at least a mental advantage over your opponent.
Mm-hmm.
So while, again, they're not playing bad hockey, they're just not up there where you would expect the talent of those teams to be at 1, 2, 3, right? So I just wouldn't want to, if I'm the Kings, have to run into them first round.
Correct. I mean, Edmonton's definitely on the rise, 8-2-1 over their last 10. Avalanche 5-5, not what you want to see. They're not even stealing overtime points. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it goes back again, like going back to stuff we've talked about in the past. Like having a McDavid, a Draisaitl, a McCarr, or a McKinnon on your team. It's almost like that Matt Rempe effect that we talked about during the playoffs. It's those, like, you're gonna have to change your coaching strategy when those guys come on the ice, right? You're gonna have to do line changes based on when they come on and when they go off. So having those, it's like having an ace of spades, really.
Yes, it is. It is. Anything hockey wise before we move on, boy?
No, I'm good.
Go Caps.
I'm distracted by this terrible West Virginia bowl game.
Oh yeah, if you didn't know, crappy Mountaineers playing a crappy bowl. Actually, not that crappy. They're playing number 25 Memphis in the Scooters Coffee Frisco Bowl.
Yeah, this is the last game of the Neil Brown era, and the Rich Rod era can't start fast enough.
Rich Rod.
Yeah. Holy shit, this team is mentally weak. The first play of the game, running back fumbled it. Luckily, I mean, they got it back, but they went 3 and out. Memphis came down.
Mentally weak.
Oh my god, Memphis just scored.
I'd like to see your ass get out on the field.
Yeah. Holy shit, is this team mentally weak? I love
it. I'll gladly do it. I don't care.
This is a throwaway game for them. This game really doesn't mean anything for West Virginia. It's a start of a new era after this.
Rich Rod's going to gut this team. I mean, they already lost Josiah Trotter, transferred out to Missouri. He was the best defensive player.
Period at the end
Jeremiah
of the sentence.
Yeah, Jeremiah Trotter kid. But anyway, moving on.
All right, we digest. Can you give us some NFL standings? We're going to go through that. Some NFL awards we're going to hand out as well with that. But I was looking at these earlier. The Chiefs still have the best record in the league at 13-1, despite all those one-score walk-off wins they have. But they've clinched the division. Buffalo's clinched their division. Detroit and Minnesota have clinched playoff spots, but obviously because with them being in the same division with do they have the same record now? Are they both 12-2?
Do you want me to do this by division?
Doesn't matter. I've studied enough. Let's do it by division, because that determines a lot of playoff who makes the playoffs, right, or the automatic spots in it. You have the AFC North. The Steelers are still leading in that, but with their loss to the Eagles, the Ravens are now a game behind them. The Bungles are still alive, but just hanging on barely for a playoff spot.
Yeah, their fate's not in their hands.
No, but
they need a combination of
that's
things
a dangerous team, though.
Yes.
Yes.
We talk about teams you don't want to play. if they squeak in the playoffs, that is the last team I want to play first round is the Bengals because of who they got running the team in Joe Burrow.
They got a tough schedule. They have I think it's Browns, Steelers, and Broncos. Not necessarily in that order. But it's not an easy like win out for these last 3 games.
Yeah, speaking of Broncos, them and the Chargers, you could say maybe be a little overachieving. They're in very much contention for playoff spots at 9-5 and 8-6 respectively. The Texans, because of how bad the AFC South is, have already clinched, I think, the division.
It's hilarious.
Yes.
They're at 9-5, already clinched the division because of how bad that AFC South is. And I think the AFC West is turning out to be a lot stronger than we thought. The Raiders, who a lot of people thought might surprise people,
Crazy.
fallen off. And the Chargers and the Broncos may be the surprise of all teams. Them and the Vikings.
That's the team that the Bengals need to lose out, I think, because they need the Broncos to lose out, and they need to win out to get a playoff spot.
The marriage of Sean Payton and Bo Nix has been nothing short of phenomenal.
You got to get your guy. Your guys. It's that plain and simple. Like it's not a simulation in a video game. You have to get the people that fit you, especially in football. Now, NFC wise, like I said, the Eagles clinched a spot. Have not clinched a division yet, I don't believe, because the Commanders are still playing pretty good ball. I think this is the best 9-5, the best 14 game start for Washington since we were born. Since 92.
100%. 100%. This is the best Washington team we've seen in our lifetime.
Yeah, crazy, right? So they still have a shot at the division, albeit long shot, but they do play Philly this weekend, so that could determine a lot of things there. Like I said, the NFC North is arguably the best division in football, which is going to get 3 playoff teams, in my opinion, with the Packers at 10-4. We said Minnesota, Detroit, both at 12-2. And the Bears, really at 4-10, could be a lot better. So that is just a rough division. The NFC South and NFC West are wild. Anything can happen there still, right? You have no one pulling away. Everyone's about mediocre 500 football. So you have the Bucks have that 1-game lead over the Falcons in the South, and the Rams and Seahawks, I believe, are tied at 8-6. With the Cardinals 7-7 and the 49ers 6-8. So you literally, basically, besides the Panthers and the Saints aren't going to get in. But Tampa Bay, Atlanta, and all 4 in the West have a legitimate shot to be in the playoffs just because of that. The NFL's always been about parity, and there's just so much parity going on in the NFC. So, especially by the fact that there aren't a lot of teams that are eliminated at this point in the NFC, but half the AFC is already eliminated. Like we said, the Texans already clinched a division. They have 10 wins. So kind of interesting stuff there. But there's still a lot to play for. 3 games left as we leave you guys here for the year, season 1. But 3 games left in the NFL schedule. Lock and play out. We'll see. Right. Now let's get into some awards. All right, we decided we're going to give you essentially our All-Pro or first team offense, our first team defense, and then our awards like MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, Rookie of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year, Defensive Rookie of the Year, Coach of the Year, all that stuff. Right. So I'll go ahead and start because I was in charge of giving the first team offense.
Okay.
Right. And so I'm going to go ahead and start from the inside out, as I am wont to do, because I am a center by trade. I will start with the center. My first team center is Creed Humphrey of the Kansas City Chiefs. Even being a lefty, right? Crazy. But with the retirement of Jason Kelsey, at this point, there's not a better center in the league than Creed Humphrey. If there is, I haven't seen it yet. He is able to make all the blocks that you can make. He runs that entire line. He's the type of player, if he were to ever come out for a play, they'd be lost almost, drastically different, right? He's that type of center that you need out on the field every play. And that regardless of who is else out there, he's going to elevate them and make them better. He, in my opinion, the best center in the league. He gets my first team nod. My guards, I have Chris Lindstrom of the Falcons, who in a lot of circles is pretty much known as the best guard in the league. Right? He's a guy out of Boston College, a first-round pick about 5 years ago. He didn't start off like a first-round pick. He had some struggles, but then the last 2-3 years, he's figured it out, and by so many metrics and so many evaluators' standards, he is easily the best guard in the league. So if you haven't watched him yet, because he is down there in Atlanta for an average team, Chris Lindstrom, top guard in the league. And the other guard was a struggle for me because there's a lot of guys you pick from: Zach Martin, Quentin Nelson, Trey Smith, from Kansas City. But I ultimately landed on Landon Dickerson from the Philadelphia Eagles. I think the Eagles have the best offensive line in the league, even without Kelsey. What's his face? Cam Jurgens, I believe, has filled in very well for Jason Kelsey at center. But Landon Dickerson, at right guard has been fantastic. Been a guy where you look up and he's mauling his dude like 10 yards down the field, pancaking them like almost every play. Where's the golden number? He was the one I went with. That was a tough one. There were a lot of different guys you could have went with for that other guard spot, but ultimately went with Dickerson. For my tackles, left tackle, I stuck with the Eagles and Jordan Mailata, who may be the best athlete playing offensive line in the league. A guy who wasn't even a American football player that long ago. Made the transition from like rugby, Aussie rules football, whatever it was, to NFL stuff, and is a just road grader. Like, he's fantastic. He can run block and pass block equally effectively. He is a stalwart over there at left tackle for the Eagles, and in my opinion, the best left tackle in the league. Right tackle, I went with Penei Sewell of the Lions. Yeah. Now, I could have went with Lane Johnson, also of the Eagles. He's fantastic. On a Hall of Fame trajectory, to be honest, Lane Johnson. But Penei Sewell is elite. We talk about athleticism and skill from a lineman standpoint. He is a weapon at right tackle. Penei Sewell is. He really is. He can make blocks that no other lineman on the field can make. And not just get to the block, but finish the block, because that's another thing entirely. He's fantastic. If you haven't watched him yet, check him out. I believe number 58 he is for the Lions. Next time you see them on TV, seek him out and look at him for at least a few plays, because he'll do some stuff that you don't see every day from a offensive lineman standpoint. Moving on to tight end, I went with Brock Bowers, the rookie from the Raiders out of the University of Georgia. Bowers, I think, is like 4th in the entire league in receiving yards, counting all receivers and everything. Like, I think the only guys ahead of him are like Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, and one other, wideout, and then Brock Bowers. He's going to set like rookie records for receiving yards and receptions for a tight end. He's been really good. If you watch him in college at Georgia, you knew this dude was something special, and he has not disappointed this year. Albeit it is disappointing. He's on a 2-win Las Vegas team. But Brock Bowers is who I went with over George Kittle, just because he's doing stuff that is lights out crazy.
How is he in the blocking? I know you love your tight ends that block.
He needs to improve. He benefits from the fact that Las Vegas has Michael Massey from Notre Dame, who's a fantastic blocking tight end, right? So that lessens the burden on him. Yes, you bring up a valid point. Normally, I would sit there and throw Kittle in there because Kittle's a great blocker. But Bowers, receiving-wise, is doing things that are, you don't see from people not named Travis Kelce. Right? So I gave him the nod there over a Kittle. But he needs to improve blocking-wise. He didn't block a lot in college, to be honest. He's probably not being put in positions to block a lot in Vegas, especially with Michael Massey being there. But still, with what he's doing receiving-wise, I gave him the nod over Kittle. Now, fullback. Yes, I have a fullback in there. You want to take a guess at who I had, boy?
Alec Ingold.
Really? I know. Where is he from?
Wisconsin.
Thank you. No, Kyle Juszczyk from...
Where the hell? Iowa? No.
Harvard.
Juszczyk is Harvard?
Kyle Juszczyk is from Harvard. Up there in Cambridge, Mass. Yes, Kyle Juszczyk's an Ivy League Juszczyk, right? He's the gold standard of fullbacks of our generation, right? Of this generation of football, he is by far the best fullback in the league because not only can he block effectively, he can receive the ball effectively, he can pass block effectively, right? So not just run blocking, because the old school fullback was pretty much a run blocker, wasn't as good pass blocking, because may not have been out there for those third downs. He a lot of times is the third down running back, and McCaffrey's like out of taking a break. He's the guy that goes to because of his pass blocking acumen. His route running and catching is unmatched from a fullback at that position. He is the standard right now in terms of fullback back play in the NFL. And yeah, there's like Alec Ingold is fantastic. Patrick Ricard of the Ravens is fantastic, but he's mostly out there to just demolish people because he's a converted defensive tackle. Do you know where he went to college, boy?
Ricard? I have no idea.
Maine. He's a Maine black bear.
Black bear, yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
So I went with Juszczyk for that.
In their prime, who would you take, Juszczyk or Chris Cooley?
Right, it's two different players.
Are
Cooley's
they?
a tight end by trade. So Cooley's route running and finding the pockets of space and pulling away from people inexplicably. Juszczyk, I think, would probably run a faster 40 than Cooley, but Cooley would find a space and pull away. So no, it's
a Aggie, I believe.
Yes, Utah State. It's an unfair comparison to try to pick one of them.
Okay.
In my
continue.
opinion. Continue. I'm going to go receiver now. I have two receivers, like an X and a Y, and a slot. So I went with Puka Nacua and Jamar Chase. Nacua now may not have the totals in terms of receiving because he got injured, but by a lot of metrics, he is the best receiver in the league. He may have the best ball skills of anyone in the league right now, best hands of anyone in the league. He's also a capable blocker, which, again, you brought that before. I factor that in when going with that spot. It's one with Puka Nacua of the Rams, and Jamar Chase has been lights out for the Bungles this year. Without him and Joe Burrow, who knows, they even have 3 wins, right? But he leads the league in basically every statistical receiving category. So I went with him. And then my slot, I went with Josh Downs of the Colts. He went from UNC, okay. Josh Downs. So hard to guard. He's put up big numbers and crazy numbers when you think about it. Again, we talked about how he's got Joe Flacco and Anthony Richardson throwing him the ball, right? So for him to put up consistent numbers as the third, because your X and Y there are Alec Pierce and Michael Pittman, so your slot is Josh Downs. And to have him put up what he's putting up is very impressive. If you ever watched him at UNC, this shouldn't shock people. He was like unguardable. Would single-handedly win games sometimes for the Tar Heels. Now moving on to quarterback. I'll do quarterback and running back. Actually, I'll just my 2 running backs. I have Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry. Those were the 2 easiest choices I had. They've been so good. Saquon was on pace to break Eric Dickerson's record. I don't think he's going to get there, especially because he may wind up sitting the final game of the year. But they've been, in my opinion, easily the 2 best running backs in the league, Barkley and Henry. A quarterback, I went with Josh Allen. He's so good. He's doing things that are just video game-like. It would be hard to score all the touchdowns he's doing in a game in a video game, yet he's doing them in real life against high-quality teams. It's not like he's going out there against the Jets and doing this. He's doing it against the Rams and the Lions and stuff like that. So Josh Allen was mine. That was a difficult one. You had Lamar Jackson up there, who was looking at him a lot for that. But I ultimately went with Josh Allen because I think he's meant more to his team. The fact that they are where they are is because of him. A couple others, I have kicker Chris Boswell.
Yep.
I mean, he's on pace, I think, to break the NFL single-season record for most field goals made. He single-handedly has provided all the points for not just 1, but 2 Steelers victories Chris Boswell has. He's one of the best bad weather kickers in the history of the NFL. He's up there with Vinatieri in terms of being able to kick in bad weather. He really is. He doesn't have those moments like Vinatieri does, but if you look at percentages from Chris Boswell, from what he's had to do in Pittsburgh, which is one of the hardest stadiums to kick in, this is the best season of his career. Good for him. A very underrated kicker. My returner is Kevontae Turpin of the Dallas Cowboys. He's had some big returns. He's so hard to tackle, but really if you watch that move he put on the Commanders in that ridiculous final 2 minutes, that just says it all. That it was a spin move pivot without being next to the guy to be able to get the separation and burn everyone on an NFL field. You win that spot, Cavante. You are my returner. And last for me, long snapper, Joe Cardona of the New England Patriots from
UVA Naval Academy,
the U.S. Naval Academy. Joe
Naval
Cardona.
Academy. That's right. Yeah.
That's how I went with my long snapper pick. I'll hang up and listen.
Nice.
Okay. Yeah.
You're up, Stevie.
I got you.
Follow that.
Follow that. That was a lot.
Yes, it was.
I got all-pro defense. Let's go through this a little quicker than Nick did.
I love linemen, so I'm sorry.
Yeah, I did a basically 2 D tackles, 2 ends, 3 linebackers, 2 corners, 2 safeties, and a punter and a nickel. So D tackle. Start with D tackle, Dexter Lawrence of the Giants. It's hard to put a team, someone on an all-pro list from a team that's 2-12, but his numbers are ridiculous.
Yes.
He's got like 9 sacks from a D tackle position. That doesn't happen.
That's Warren Sapp stuff.
Yeah.
Aaron Donald stuff.
He's been the best D tackle in the league this year. Second D tackle, I went with Jalen Carter of Philly. Not someone that shows up on the stat sheet, but has been a force the last half of the season. I think he's a force to be reckoned with. He makes a very stout defensive line for Philadelphia. DN Trey Hendrickson from Cincinnati leads the league in sacks.
From
I have no idea where Trey Hendrickson
Florida
is from.
Atlantic, the Owls.
Who?
Who?
Fighting Owls.
Fine Owls. Next defensive end, Daniil Hunter from Houston. He has 12 sacks. So Hendrickson has 12.5 sacks on the year. Daniil Hunter has 12.
Okay.
They've been the 2 leaders in sacks at the DM position. Basically, what happens with the DM position is that, depending on what your team runs, either a 4-3 or a 3-4, there are different player types and player scheme, and schemes that you run and everything. So Daniil Hunter and Henderson are classified as DNs, and my next guy who I have as the defensive player of the year, TJ Watt, is considered a linebacker because they run a 3-4 in Pittsburgh. So TJ Watt, he's got ridiculous numbers. He has 11.5 sacks, but the big number for him is that he has 6 forced fumbles, which is crazy. He forced another one the other night.
I mean, the Watts just have a penchant for being able to get the ball out of the quarterback's hands.
Yeah, and he's also learned how to do the punch.
Yeah, that's a trend.
It's not just him coming off the edge and strip sack. He's able to do a punch on a running back or Jalen Hurts running the football, in his case, the other night. Next one, linebacker. I'm going with Zaire Franklin from Indianapolis.
You sure? You sounded hesitant there.
Hesitant. I had to make sure I had to
Franklin?
get his name correctly.
Stay classy, San Diego.
He leads the league in tackles, 2.5 sacks, 3 forced fumbles. He's been an absolute monster for Indy. And then my next linebacker, Zach Bond from
Wisconsin.
Yes, he got moved to middle linebacker. He was not a natural middle linebacker.
He wasn't.
Moved to middle linebacker for Philly. He is 3rd in the league in tackles. He also has an interception, 3.5 sacks. He has been incredible for the Eagles. A guy that gets left off this list, unfortunately, is Nick Bonito.
Yeah, he's been great.
Yeah, I wanted to mention him. Unfortunately, there's just not enough names.
Mm-hmm.
But he's been phenomenal for Denver.
And then when he wins Defensive Player of the Year, we'll put egg on your face and have you eat crow. And
probably. That's why I needed to mention him. Moving on to the cornerback position, I have Byron Murphy Jr. from Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
He leads the league in interceptions. I'm sorry, he's 1 behind in interceptions. My next guy, Xavier McKinney, leads the league in interceptions.
Xavier McKinney, I believe, from Notre Dame? No, Alabama.
Sorry, I go in. Let's see, Murphy at corner. Next corner, Derek Stingley Jr. from Houston.
From LSU. He's a monster.
He's been really
good.
No
Pat Surtain for you?
No, I mean, I wanted to put him up there, but the numbers of what Derek Stingley Jr. has done with his pass defended, his interceptions, and his tackle numbers, that's why I have him there. Surtain's been, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, Surtain doesn't have the numbers because he doesn't get
Because they
thrown
can't
at.
throw to they can't throw to anyone he guards because they're not open.
Correct. Safety, I mentioned McKinney. He leads the league in interceptions, as does my next guy. They're tied at 7. Kirby Joseph with Detroit, both at 7 interceptions. My nickel. So I did something different with a nickel. I didn't do a traditional nickelback as like. So like if you look at,
is this how you remind me of who I really am?
Yeah. So if you look at a traditional nickel, it's the 5th DB that comes onto the field. Usually they play like a slot receiver, like Beanie Bishop Jr. in Pittsburgh is like a traditional nickel. He's a cornerback that comes in to play slot. Nowadays they have like a safety hybrid type body that will come and play down in the box a lot.
Almost like a sword is what some of the defenses call that guy as a sword.
Yeah, so I went with Buda Baker as my nickel. I was flipping between him and Branch in Detroit.
Yeah, Brian Branch been very good.
Brian Branch has been fantastic, but Buda doesn't have the interception numbers, but he is like 142 total tackles.
He makes like every tackle. Yeah,
yeah, he's all over the place. That's why I put him as my nickel.
Yeah.
And then punter Corey Bojorquez. In Cleveland. Bojorquez in Cleveland. He has like 36 inside the 20. 36 punts that have landed inside the 20, which is which is the best in the league because also he punts a lot. And I think he has a long of like 84, which is crazy.
Yeah, he would be a Belichick dream. He's lefty and can bomb it.
From New Mexico or New Mexico State. I forgot which one he was, but
something.
Yeah. But that's my list. I'll hang up and listen.
You didn't have a special teamer?
Well, I did. It was Turpin, but I didn't realize what you wanted, like special teamer.
No, like Matthew Slater.
I'll
give Skoranek for whoever he plays for. Ben Skoranek from Notre Dame. He's a great special teamer.
Might be on Pittsburgh.
All right.
I think he's
on
Pittsburgh.
NFL end of the year awards. I'll start with Coach of the Year, Dan Campbell.
I like that.
Dan Campbell, and I also really like that pick because the Vikings coach won it last year. And so this Dan Campbell, I think, just kind of one up and an answering back. I like that. So, Coach of the Year, Dan Campbell. Defensive Rookie of the Year. Give me Quinyon Mitchell of the Eagles.
He's been good.
He's been good. Cornerback has not recorded his first pick, but also does not have a touchdown allowed on his coverage. And I think coming into like first year in the league where, defenses are just crippled by the rules, to come in as a rookie and that's your stat line, I'd take that 10 times out of 10.
Yes, him and Cooper DeJean have been fantastic for the Eagles in their secondary.
From Toledo, right? He's a Rocket.
Offensive Rookie of the Year, give me Jaden Daniels.
Oh yeah.
We said it earlier, this is the best Washington team, Commanders football team, Redskins, whatever you want to call them. Just, you can call on Jaden Daniels. That guy, that's the GOAT in Washington right now. Give me Jaden Daniels, Offensive Rookie of the Year. Defensive Player, I had a tough time with this one. Poured through a lot of research, watched a lot of footage, and I whittled it down between TJ Watt and Will Anderson Jr. of the Texans. Give me Will Anderson Jr. of the Texans.
Defensive player from
Alabama.
Roll Tide, y'all. You didn't know he's a virgin until he's 28 now.
Roll Tide. So I landed on Will Anderson Jr. of the Texans. I think especially because there's a chance TJ Watt might miss next week with that ankle injury, right?
They have that stupid 3 games in 11 days. I feel like if it was me, I'd sit him out for the next 2.
Yeah. And then offensive player, give me Saquon Barkley. You can't turn on a sports channel without seeing a Saquon highlight, and I think the backwards facing hurdle really sealed it. And we've talked about it time and time again. He's a product of his environment. He gets the change of scenery, awesome. He gets a great line to play behind, awesome. Give me Saquon Barkley, offensive player of the year. And then MVP, they wouldn't be where they are without this guy. Give me Josh Allen for the MVP. too many times this season does Buffalo say, "Josh, can you help us out?" And the man delivers, like you said, Nick, and he's doing it against some high caliber teams. Does he get to play some dumpster fire teams like the Patriots twice a year? Yes. Like the Jets twice a year? Yes. But Josh Allen stands and delivers week after week. Josh Allen MVP.
Beat the Chiefs.
Yes, Josh Allen MVP.
I like it.
Mm-hmm.
Like it. Anything NFL wise? We'll move on to some hot stove baseball.
Let's move on to some hot stove baseball.
Hot stove baseball. This is our last chance to plug our favorite fried chicken restaurant, Bobo's Fine Chicken in Virginia Beach on Shore Drive. They sponsor our baseball segment. They have this whole year. We want to give a big shout out to Bo and the rest of his staff over there at Bobo's. They're fantastic for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, Monday through Saturday. They got donuts on the weekends. They got eggnog and peppermint ice cream. Not mixed together. Eggnog ice cream and peppermint ice cream. Right now,
so good.
They got happy hour now. Weekdays, I think like 2 to 5, something like that. So we want to give a shout out to Bobo's. They've been our baseball sponsor. So before we do our segment, we love you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for everything that you have done for us. But baseball, wanted to just kind of touch on some free agency notes. We wanted to bring up the Juan Soto contract. We didn't talk about it last week because we were more into, again, what happens on the field. So we thought this was a good opportunity to get into it. But the Juan Soto contract, 15 years, $785 million, something like around there. I'm not exact on the numbers, but something crazy.
It was 760. I thought it was like 769 or something. Whatever it is, it's a ridiculous
amount of money to the Mets of all places. I sincerely believe that if the Mets were not the New York Mets and they were the Atlanta Mets or the Houston Mets or the Seattle Mets, that he would have signed with the Yankees to stay in New York. And the fact that this offer was from a team in the same city that he went with that was the determining factor.
A lot of people were reporting, and you probably saw this, Nick, a lot of people were reporting that like New York Yankees security and like front office management were giving his family a hard time about getting seats. And so in his contract, he had requested like a suite for his family. And the Yankees said, yeah, if you pay for it. Because Jeter paid for his suite. Yeah, Judge paid for his. I think Rivera paid for his. But the Mets were like, we'll give you a suite. We don't care.
We want.
Yeah, and a lot of people said that coupled with the just ridiculous amount of money was the driving factor there. But I do like your point about the same city.
This is a restricted area.
Whoa.
Should have shot A-Rod.
Yeah. You deaf?
You dick, you shot me. I'm Derek Jeter.
Working security detail in the Bronx.
But yes, I've heard that. But it's a very Yankees thing to be like, well, our captains had to pay for it, so we're not going to give you special treatment. Right? Yeah. And in some ways you have to respect that. Other ways, the modern mindset to be like, oh, who cares? But the Yankees are not about always being the modern mindset. If that's going to be your tipping point, your money crux,
to go get 4 players or 5 players that can help you win,
which is what the Yankees have done. They went out and signed Max Fried to a huge deal, like the largest contract ever for a lefty pitcher, I believe. Mm-hmm. They went and traded for Devin Williams, who's arguably been the best closer in the league for the last couple years. They just traded for Cody Bellinger, which sounds like Joey Gallo 2.0.
Yeah. Go get Christian Walker. That's what I would do.
No, I think the Yankees needed to, after they missed out on Soto, I said they need to get Fried, Corbin Burns, and trade for Kyle Tucker. Well, they did one. They missed out on Tucker, who got traded to the Cubs. So they went with their backup to get Bellinger, which is, it's one of those moves where if you look at what you have available, what your roster construction is right now with the Yankees, it's a move you have to make, but it's, gosh, if he hits 250, I'm ecstatic. I do not expect him to break 250. I do not expect him to break 30 home runs.
What was his numbers from last year?
266, 18 home runs. Thank you for that. And that's why I thought it was imperative that you get Kyle Tucker, because the Astros were not the Cubs didn't give up much to get him. Isaac Paredes and like one other person. The Yankees have easily afforded to outbid that just Luis Gil on his own is who apparently the reports were that the Astros wanted. Him alone is more than Isaac Paredes and whoever they threw in, right? So even if the Yankees are trying to be prideful and say, we won't let the Astros bend us over because we hate the Astros, getting Tucker would have eased a lot of anxiety. Getting Bellinger eases nothing. This is someone with big swing and miss inconsistencies who's a full pull hitter who can be exposed because you're now pitching him the same way you're going to pitch Stanton. And yeah, he's from a different side of the plate, but it's the same way you're pitching everyone else who the Yankees have signed and traded for. But
all of a sudden,
they didn't give up. They didn't give up anything for him. Cody Poteet, I think, is who they gave up. So they gave up nothing for him. Hopefully, he can not have the swing and miss. If he doesn't have the swing and miss, his swing is perfect for yanking the ball down the line. It's just, it is so long.
You need that tough out. Like Soto was a tough out, right?
You need the tough out in Tucker. That's what Kyle Tucker's a tough out, and you needed that. But there are reports your boy Anthony Santander could be going to New York as well because they still need another outfielder.
That would be massive.
Yeah, that's.
I don't think they're going to pony up for the money, though they probably need to. I still think they need to get another starting pitcher because, again, outside of Cole and Fried, who do you trust to take the ball? Rodon? No. Clark Schmidt? No. Luis Gil? No. Marcus Stroman? No.
And it seems like every day there's a new team in the running for Corbin Burns.
By the way,
the Jays, the Giants. I mean, everyone is trying to get in on this.
Absolutely, because he's the best pitcher on the market right now.
Yeah.
By the way, Nick, how confident are you with Fried? Because we've
had
seen
injuries.
No, not necessarily that. Just the mental aspect of playing in New York. So we've seen pitchers, like big-time pitchers, come into New York, and Sonny Gray coming in there.
Fried has more of a track record than Sonny Gray and Carlos Rodon. Okay. He's been dominant more, and he's been in he's won a World Series, right? He's pitched in those situations. Rodon and Sonny Gray, basemen pitch in front of like college crowds in college environments, right? They never had that. So it's like shell shock.
You feel better about Fried?
I feel comfortable with Fried. He's been in the biggest situations you could be in as a starter and produce. But again, I'll probably want a beating crow, egg on my face, a bomb like Rodon, right? That'd be typical Yankees. But that signing to me felt necessary. I had no qualms about it, no second thoughts. That seemed fine to me with him. The trade for Devin Williams, very interesting, right? I think that was almost a must as well for the Yankees. They let Clay Holmes go. He wasn't even their closer anymore. He's not going to be a starter for the Mets, right? That's where he is. So he's gone there. So some interesting hot stove stuff. Who are you looking at hot stove wise? Before we give our MLB Hall of Fame ballots.
I want to see where Christian Walker ends up. He's been one of my favorite players the last couple of years, and I think he went to a World Series with Arizona. I really want to see where he ends up. I think he's a game changer, especially defensively. There are teams that really, I feel like defensively at first base, we've just seen it go downhill.
Because you don't have a true first baseman. There are only a couple true first basemen. He's one of them.
Yeah.
And he's arguably the best
really like
defensively.
He's what I am keeping my eye on.
Yeah. He seems like a logical fit for the Yankees, especially now that you traded for a left-handed hitter. You got your lefty. You got your righty at first base, Gold Glover. That would seem to help your team a lot, but you never know.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to move on. Hall of Fame ballots. I think this will be our last thing before we give our favorites from this past year. I wanted the MLB Hall of Fame ballots came out about a month ago, and I asked each of our guys here to give us who you would vote for. Just a refresher on the Baseball Hall of Fame ballots. You can vote for up to 10 people, but you do not have to vote for anyone. So you could vote for 2, you could vote for 0, you could vote for 6, right? You vote for 10. So that's kind of the beauty of that ballot, but it also makes it unpredictable. So who wants to start and give their picks for their ballot this year?
I'll go. All right, so I got 8. Number 1, Ichiro Suzuki, number 1. Number 2, CC Sabathia. I think both of those guys in, without a question. Number 3, give me Manny Ramirez. Then number 4, Carlos Beltran. Number 5, give me Adam Jones.
Of course.
Had to sneak that one in there. Had to sneak that. I don't honestly, and if we're being totally honest, I don't think he ever gets in. But
Hall of very good. He's an
yes.
all-time Oriole, right? Like one of the fan favorite.
That's my
Orioles.
that's my guy, right? That's my
Yeah.
guy. I loved him. I will always love him. So he's on my ballot if I had a vote. Then give me Andrew Jones. That was 6. And then everybody's favorite power hitting second baseman, give me Chase Utley.
Yes.
And then last I want Billy Wagner.
Okay. Yeah.
Love it.
I'll go.
Boy.
I also had 8. Slightly different. Most of them the same. I have Billy Wagner. He absolutely deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Andrew Jones as well. The defensive metrics need to get him into the Hall. He's got over 400 home runs, and he's one of the best defensive center fielders ever.
Best defensive players ever. If you look at defensive metrics in terms of like defensive runs saved, all time, I think he's in like the top 5. But everyone else around him in like the top 10 are shortstops.
Holy cow!
It's kind of crazy. He is very arguably the best defensive center fielder ever in a position where Willie Mays played and Ken Griffey Jr. played, right? That and Mickey Mantle and DiMaggio and so many greats. Costanza.
Number 3, Carlos Beltran, switch hitter, by the way, fantastic. Number 4, Omar Vizquel, another phenomenal defender. Over 2,000 hits. He needs to be in there. K-Rod at number 5, Francisco Rodriguez.
Is he even on the ballot?
He is on the ballot.
Are you sure you're not mixing him with Fernando Rodney?
No. I am looking at Francisco Rodriguez. It is his 3rd year on ballot.
Huh.
Interesting.
Okay. Interesting choice.
Why is that an interesting choice?
Because he was even though he has the record for most saves in a season, he was not that consistent in terms. He was Corey Kluber-esque.
He has 437 career saves and a career ERA at 2.86. He's a Hall of Famer.
Okay, I disagree. I think there's no postseason.
So why is Billy Wagner a Hall of Famer?
Because Billy Wagner he
has less saves than K-Rod.
So dominant though.
You said K-Rod had one of the all-time years.
1 year does not make you a Hall of Famer. Billy Wagner produced dominantly throughout his entire career. K-Rod
437 career saves doesn't just happen in 1 year.
It doesn't, but he also had a lot of inconsistencies. I think he's a Hall of Very Good. I think he's a guy who...
Okay, he's not on your list. He's on mine. I voted for him. Don't put him on your ballot. I'm putting it on mine. Moving on. Number 6, Torrey Hunter. Love me some Torrey Hunter. One of my favorite players. Also incredible defender. Number 7, Ichiro. First ballot, obviously. Yeah. I mean, he'll have zero problem. Number 8, CC Sabathia. Another one that should go first ballot. I'll hang up and listen.
Okay, thank you. Allow me to destroy your gallery. Bullshit. Derivative. Ongo Gablogian. The Odd Collector. So, my ballot, I have Carlos Beltran, like all of us did. Yeah, enough said. He was that consistently good throughout his career. Andrew Jones, like you said, should have been in before. There's no reason that he's out. I went with A-Rod. And then you guys had him on there.
Boo!
He did his time. He served his penalty.
You guys had 2 steroid guys. Kamala had Manny.
Yes, he did. I went with A-Rod. He was too good. Too good before the steroids to ignore it. CC Sabathia. Arguably the best left-handed pitcher before Kershaw came in. I think that's of that generation. Before Kershaw walked in there, Sabathia was the best lefty. It kind of maybe Cliff Lee you could throw in there. But Sabathia, I think I saw something crazy. He's like one of 3 left-handed pitchers to have 3,000 strikeouts and 250 wins. Something like that. And the other ones are Steve Carlton and Randy Johnson. It's some crazy stat there with him, but he should definitely be in. Ichiro, it may be unanimous. Ichiro has a legitimate shot to be unanimous. I don't think he will because there's too many.
Someone will go.
It'll
but
be
he's
like
not
98,
the best at his
99%.
position.
Yeah, exactly.
Someone will say no just to be the person who said no.
Yeah.
Some bullshit there.
Yeah.
Next, I do have Chase Utley.
Mhm.
I have Chase Utley. A lot of it has to do with the position he played, right? Because of
You know how rare it is
Yeah.
to have power hitting second baseman.
Did you have a good relationship with your father? Me either. Oh shit, they're stickers. But really, Chase Utley, metrics-wise, defensively, is one of the best defensive second basemen of all time. If you look at his 7-year peak, he has those peak years that, regardless of position, are phenomenal. But when you factor in that he was a second baseman playing elite defense at those peak 5, 6, 7 years, that I think is what elevates him, in my opinion, as a Hall of Famer. Now, he's not going to get in at this point. He probably may not make it in on his 10 years.
He got a higher percentage of votes than I thought.
His WAR is like almost at Jeter's level.
Yeah, his WAR's at 49.3, which is the
who?
highest on this ballot.
Are you on Fangraphs or?
I'm on Baseball Reference.
I thought his was like 64.5.
Oh, sorry, that's WAR 7. Sorry, his is 64.5. What does WAR 7 mean?
For his peak 7 years, his peak 7 WAR seasons, he is second to A-Rod. Yeah, and the reason that I think that's going to be beneficial for him as position-wise is we just saw Joe Mauer get elected by that. Literally because of that. Joe Mauer does not have the counting statistics at all. But his 7-year peak at a position where those things are scarce at catcher is very similar to second baseman with Utley. And so I think he will eventually get in because of, there's precedent there. His numbers are not that far off from what you probably career-wise would find with Mauer. Mauer's going to have a higher career batting average. But Utley producing at the position he did defensively, too. Mauer wasn't the greatest defensively, but Utley was fantastic defensively. That's going to help his case eventually. And last but not least, Billy Wagner. We all had him. Billy Wagner, by the way, from
UVA.
Ferrum College.
Oh.
I
always get confused with that because
Division III. Ferrum, by the way.
Came back to help UVA for some reason. What's his tie to UVA?
I don't know.
Virginia.
Nice school in Virginia.
Is he from Virginia?
Yeah.
He went to Ferrum.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
I don't think you
Virginia.
just end up at Ferrum if you're not from the area.
Yeah. But Billy Wagner really was, if he pitched during a different era when he wasn't competing against the Riveras and Trevor Hoffmans and John Smoltz and Eric Gagnes and all these different guys who were putting up these things, if he pitched in a different era, he would have been in 7 years ago. He was that dominant, that good. But I'll
How many years do you get on the ballot?
10.
10.
So this is his last
10th
year.
This is last year.
Yeah.
And players normally see a boost in their last year. Larry Walker saw it. Tim Raines saw it.
Well, he had a percent, according to Baseball Reference, his percentage vote was 73.8%. You have to get to what, 75?
Yeah. He missed out last year by like a couple votes.
Andrew Jones only has 2 years left.
Yeah. No, it's a fascinating study of sociology, baseball Hall of Fame voting, because of the fact that you only get 10. So some people will say, I'm going to use all 10 so I can keep people on the ballot, because if you fall below 5%, you're booted off of it, right?
Oh, interesting.
So some people will say, well, you know what? So-and-so, I don't know if they're Hall of Famer right now, but I really want to look at them compared to other guys going forward, so I'm going to vote for Bobby Abreu to keep him on the ballot. because Bobby Abreu has some tremendous counting stats. He has tremendous not StatCast, but sabermetric numbers, especially when you consider walks, on base percentage. His stolen base percentage is very high. He never got caught stealing, right? So Abreu's one of those guys where some baseball nerds, such as ourselves, might throw a vote in there as part of their 10 just to keep him on the ballot to have some consideration, right? So it is fascinating the way they structure the Hall of Fame voting for baseball. But yeah, I think those are solid picks from us all around. I think I like it. Anything else?
There's one guy we left off that I hope he makes it. J-Roll.
Okay, yeah. I thought you were gonna say fucking Dustin Pedroia.
No,
you douche.
Dustin Pedroia is not a Hall.
No, he's not. He shouldn't even be on the ballot.
No, J-Roll is who I was looking at.
He's someone who'd be worth throwing a vote to because he is a fascinating study because he's a switch-hitting shortstop, leadoff hitter, world champion,
2,500,
MVP,
almost 2,500 hits, 230 home runs.
Yes. Former MVP too, so he's got that. That's a big thing when they look at voting and stuff. So he's someone who I think if I was casting a ballot, I might throw him just because I had a couple extra picks there. I only had 7. I might throw him for J-Roll just to make sure he stayed on the ballot because he may consider or need to be considered down the line in terms of what he did, especially with his pedigree. All right, I'm going to bring us to our final segment this week, and that is our favorite segment. Our favorites, as always, are brought to you by One Legacy Title and Escrow in Jacksonville, Florida. Visit them at onelegacyflorida.com and follow them on Instagram at onelegacyflorida. Make sure they can help you on your next house closing. One Legacy Title and Escrow, because your legacy matters. Now, as our end-of-year wrap-up show, we went with our favorite sporting things from this past year. Favorite things from the world of sports that we saw from this past year. Who would like to start?
Please let me go first. Please.
Go, Kamala.
All right. Honorable mention. Rachel Reagan breakdancing at the Olympics. Didn't make the list. It's an honorable mention, but holy cow, was that great.
Holy cow.
Holy cow. Yeah, honorable mention. Reagan at the Olympics.
Someone at our corporate Halloween costume party dressed up.
Love it. Which is gonna bring. All right, so we're past the potatoes. Let's get to the meat. Number 5, rock climbing at the Olympics. We talked about it in the Olympic episode with Doug. I loved rock climbing at the Olympics, and when I sat back and reflected on the last year of sports, that jumped to the forefront of my mind. I really, really enjoyed it. I thought that was a great innovation for the Olympics, and it was a fun watch. Very quick, very easy to understand, easy to grasp, and quite possibly the most entertaining and easy thing to bet on when it came to the Olympics. Number 4, Simone Biles' record-breaking Paris Olympics performance. I mean, she's just lights out, and she's electric, and she's fun to look at anytime she's on the floor. So that was another thing that really stuck out to me. Number 3, this one's a little more sentimental. I'm going to talk about going to Richmond Squirrels games with the boys. Richmond Squirrels games.
Go nuts.
Yeah. I think I think I only got to 2, maybe 3 this year, but the one that we went to where all of us were together, we went to Buskey's beforehand. We got to sit there, we walked around the stadium, crushed some beers, saw some halfway decent baseball. Richmond Squirrels games with
we drank, we fought, we made our ancestors proud.
Yes, we did. That was a lot of fun. I had a good time with that. Number 2, USA winning the Solheim Cup.
Mm-hmm.
That was fun. Being there for trophy presentation day was awesome. And it felt extra special, given our Mimosa Minute segment, and, always talking about women's athletics, getting a chance to go there, be there in person, see the ladies, the women that we were talking about week in and week out. It's always fun to go and see people that you see on the TV and that you read about. And I had a lot of fun with that. The company was great. The golf was awesome. And, it's an event unlike any other. Solheim Cup, Ryder Cup, right up there at the tippy top of things. Golf fans should try to go and see. And then number one, the Stanley Cup playoffs ending with Florida Panthers winning the Stanley Cup. Honestly, it probably could have been anyone winning the Stanley Cup. I just think that the Stanley Cup playoffs are just so special. It would be my favorite regardless, right? You could honestly just say seeing the Stanley Cup on TV, and that would top my list. Florida Panthers, that was a really, really special win. And I don't think there was a team in the playoffs that deserved it more. I think, just seeing a team skate the cup around always makes me a little misty-eyed. So yeah, that was my number one. So I'll hang up and listen. That's my list.
I like it. Boy.
Nice. All right. With me, number 5, I went with a dual thing here. So I went with UConn and Kansas City Chiefs going back-to-back champions, because that is so incredibly difficult to do. We know March Madness is nuts.
Mm-hmm.
To do that in March Madness is crazy. And then the Kansas City Chiefs, like the parody of the NFL, and everything's designed to get a different champion each year. So to do that, I have those two sitting at number 5, back-to-back champs. Number 4, Scotty Scheffler's season, coupled with the arrest and him stretching in a jail cell, coming out the
coupled with the arrest is crazy.
That's part of it. That is part of the memorable season of Scotty Scheffler, the nicest guy in the world, getting arrested in Louisville, Kentucky. But his season was absolutely remarkable.
And Nelly's.
Yes. Number 3, Travis Hunter's season. Another one that something we have never seen before with what he's done. And I keep seeing a lot of people don't like the people's champ was Janty. Janty we've seen. I know it, we kind of want to say we haven't seen it before, but I think we all forget about Melvin Gordon's 2014 year, which he actually had better numbers than Janty.
And Barry Sanders.
Barry Sanders.
Let's not forget about that dude.
We haven't
Barry
seen
Sanders.
since Barry Sanders.
Yeah.
People forget about Melvin Gordon's year.
Sure.
That was also a really good Wisconsin team. But Travis Hunter's season was absolutely absurd. Number 2, Shohei Ohtani's season. The home run, stolen bases,
50-50.
Everything that guy does, absolute unicorn. The Shohei season internationally, what he's brought in, winning a World Series. I mean, what a ridiculous year for Shohei. And then number 1, Paul Skeens' emergence. He is a guy that
good one.
Every time he took the bump, I was like, oh, it's Paul Skeens pitching today. I'm finding that game and I'm watching it. He was absolutely my favorite thing of this year. I'll hang up and listen.
I like it.
That's a good list.
Almost all of mine have two things tied into each other because, like you said, boys, sometimes it's the same thing. So my number 5 is college basketball, with the NC State men making that run to the Final Four where they had to win the ACC title, which they did, and then they had to keep going and got to the Final Four, beating Duke to get there as well, right? I believe that's who they beat.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they did. Whatever. But making that run, they did. DJ Burns, that was awesome. And then from the women's side, the Iowa-South Carolina National Championship game where you had Caitlin Clark versus Dawn Staley from UVA. Her brilliance as a coach and their defensive strategy against her, that I lumped those two together. Then based on what I lumped together, Christian Moore from Tennessee hit the second ever cycle in the men's College World Series history. And that was just, his game was so nuts to do that against Florida State in that first game. That was one of my favorite things to watch this year. And the other one is Ohtani's 50-50 game, the game where he hit his 50th home run and stole his 50th base. Arguably the greatest single game a MLB player's ever produced. Right, when you factor in total bases, he had 3 home runs. He had 2 steals. It was nuts. He went 6 for 6. had those lumped together as well. Number 3, Olympic-wise, 2 track events that happened, I think, on the same day. Quincy Hall and Cole Hawker winning the gold medal in their respective events. At least Quincy Hall was the 400, and Cole Hawker, I think, was the 1500. Neither of them were expected to compete for the gold. They were both thought of as guys who could possibly fight for that bronze, but yet both those guys, in such an American way, gutted out those wins. Quincy Hall's is like stuck in my brain because when you're running, when you look like you're fighting, like you're put effort in, that's normally a sign that you're done, that you have no shot. And so he's coming around the final turn and he's gritting, like he is giving all, a Herb Brooks hockey player. And the announcers are like, "Oh, he's done," and he walks down the favorites to win a gold medal out of nowhere. To me, was the most American thing I saw of the entire Olympics. So that put him up there at number 3 with Cole Hawker's upset in the 1500. Next, again, 2 college football things put together. Indiana's football season and Vanderbilt beating Alabama. Because both of those are so unlikely. You're talking about 2 of arguably the worst college football programs ever.
Well, Indiana
when you consider
is
their entirety.
the worst college football program.
Right, Indiana has the most losses ever by a college football team at the FBS level. And to see them, Indiana get to the playoff at 11-1, and to see Vanderbilt go 6-6 and beat Alabama and walk that goalpost all the way down Broadway and dump that sucker in the Tennessee River. Awesome. That was my second favorite thing. My first favorite thing turned to 2 former Who's, and Danielle Collins and Lauren Coughlin. Mm-hmm. Danielle Collins at tennis, she had announced that this was going to be her last year at the beginning of this year. She has since reversed course and is going to come back next year, but she had a career year. She won back-to-back tournaments, I believe, in Charleston and Miami. And she was like the first woman to do that since Serena, like several years ago, right, to win those tournaments back-to-back. She got to, I believe, the WTA finals, or at least she was close there. I want to say she might have just barely missed out, but she had a fantastic career year, Danielle Collins did. And Lauren Coughlin, who is a walk-on golfer at UVA, she won her first event ever, I believe, in Calgary, and then followed up a couple weeks later, winning in Scotland, I think, at St. Andrews, and making the Solheim Cup team, winning the Solheim Cup, being part of that. She is arguably the breakout star, or one of the breakout stars of the LPGA season, and to see her do it as a local player was phenomenal and so enjoyable to watch. And I love them.
Inspirational too.
Who's together as my top pick.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's a good list.
Hang up and listen.
Mm-hmm. Good list.
Anything else before we wrap up season 1?
No, I don't think so.
Love it. So that's going to do it for us here at What Caught My Eye, or WCME Sports. As always, for the man Stephen Comlo and the boy Stephen Vesci, I am the coach, Nick Vesci. Thank you for everyone who has supported us through our first season. Thank you to all of our sponsors, Bobo's Fine Chicken in Virginia Beach, Maine & Co., the makers of the Modern Mimosa, One Legacy Title and Escrow in Jacksonville, Florida. Am I missing anyone who's else sponsored us, who helped us? I don't think so yet. We are open for more sponsors.
Shout out to the special guests, Griswold,
our special guests,
Bursack, Doug, everyone that really just pitched in. I mean, this has been a fun ride getting this up and off the ground with you guys, and the people that come in, that fill in for us, that contribute. I mean, it's all really, really nice, and it helps a lot.
Yeah, thanks to our wives who have supported us through this, who have taken the hit, or the brunt of the hit, for the couple hours that we spend doing this with each other each week. So a special thank you to them. Thank you parents.
To your family. I got to shout out your folks. I know that's where you were going, but your folks and your extended family too, because your dad is always real quick to offer up, advice and feedback from the rest of your family that tune in. Which, I mean, it helps a lot. Do we listen to all of it? Absolutely not. But does it get us thinking in ways that maybe we haven't considered and consider different avenues? Absolutely. So huge shout out to Clan Veshy.
Yes. Again, thank you to everyone who's supported us, who's listened, who's watched. Give us a click, a like, subscribe, comment, whatever it is. Again, before we sign off, just remember we are on X, on Instagram, and on Facebook at WCME_sports. Our episodes drop every Wednesday at noon on Spotify and YouTube. You can visit us on our website at WCMEsports.com. We're going to take a hiatus after this season. We might have a bonus, segment that'll be released sometime during our break, but we will pick you guys back up after the college football national championship in about a month or so. But as always, be decent to each other. Have a good one. We will see you next time. Take care, Guatemala.